order the Planning Commission meeting after October 2nd, 2025, the Cache County Planning Commission meeting. We'll have our opening remarks and pledge. I'd like to welcome everybody here first of all, and then we'll have our opening remarks and pledge by Nate Dowds.
Give my opening remarks in the form of a prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to gather together in this county, in this great state and country where we have the freedoms to work together to decide how we want to grow and as a county and a community. And thank you for the opportunity we have to come together civilly and go over these matters. And bless us as we discuss these matters on the agenda tonight, that we can have the best interests of the citizens of this county in our minds. And we say these things in Jesus Christ, amen. Amen. You all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that's George right there. Got the microphone. Might want to invite him in. The new.
I will just say one thing. We have some new tech in here. It's a work in progress, but if we might get some feedback and stuff, but we'll try and adjust as we go through. So.
Okay, thank you.
Just FYI.
Was George going to step in?
I motioned to him to see if he wanted to say a few words, but he waved me off.
he
So.
kept going.
All right, we'll start with our consent items. After we first review and approve the agenda. Thanks for the reminder on that. Has the commissioners had a chance to review tonight's agenda? If you have, do we have an approval?
Just as a reminder, we are removing item number 6 from the agenda tonight.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the taking off item number 6, Saddle Ridge subdivision, as well as last month's meeting minutes.
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So just confirming then Saddle Ridge withdrew tonight.
Yes. Yes. Okay, consent item number 1. The Bold Canine Solutions LLC conditional use permit. I request for a 6-month extension of the effective period of the approval to create and operate a kennel, a home-based kennel in the agriculture A10 zone. Any comments or concerns on this, commissioners? Okay.
You want to do one at a time on those 3?
We could go through all 3. Don't all through? Okay. Second one's the Nautica subdivision First Amendment, a request for a 6-month extension of the effective period of the approval to amend the Nautica subdivision in the agriculture A10 zone. This amendment is to convert the existing agriculture remainder into the 12th building lot within the subdivision. And the third consent item is Zan Summers lot split First Amendment, a request to amend an existing second lot subdivision. The amendment will modify lot 1 by shifting boundary lines with a parcel that is not located within the subdivision. Okay.
Make a motion to approve those 3 consent items.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, regular action items, number 4, public hearing. It's for the Mountain Manor Springs rezone. Connor, if you can take us through that.
Yeah, so it's a request to rezone about 98 acres from the A10 zone to the RU2 zone. Staff is recommending denial tonight. The reasons why is the location of the subject property to be rezoned is not compatible with the purpose of the RU2 zone. The nearest parcel in the county that's in the RU2 zone is located 1.25 miles away. The proposed rezone is not consistent with the Cache County General Plan. And should the maximum number of lots be subdivided, the secondary ingress-egress will have to be created. And there's currently a weird restriction on parcel 26, which is the largest one, which if we go through with the rezone, it would kind of complicate the issue of resolving that. So for those 5 reasons, we're recommending denial.
How far from that is
About a mile and a half, somewhere in there. I should also note, at the time we wrote the staff report, we hadn't received public comment from Mendon. They're against it. They submitted one a little bit after, I think it was on Monday.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, yeah, there's also that reason if you want to add that too.
Okay.
It also borders the FR40.
Okay, any comment on this, commissioners? I think it's pretty straightforward.
We'll
Okay,
make a motion to open a public hearing.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we have the applicant here that would like to please come forward and state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes? Just right here at the podium.
Well, first of all, it's kind of a misrepresentation. We turned in built like a plan with 20 lots, but we were.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry, Rye Lund. With 20 lots, the RU2, I don't think we could ever get enough water rights for 49 lots, so, it's kind of a misrepresentation of what she's trying to do. We did turn that in with the packet, and so, that's kind of the first thing I wanted to say is it wasn't gonna be 49 lots. The next thing is, you know, Petersboro is a pretty diverse place. Just right up north from there, we have a huge amount of acreage that's commercial zoned for and then just right over the hill, there's a large subdivision over there too. And then down in Mendon, that used to be Petersboro, they just annexed in another big subdivision right down there. And we're just kind of we're following the pattern. You know, when we first moved up there, there wasn't anyone up there. And over the years, you know, go back 10 years, 15 years, nobody was up there. And there's slowly been growth. And we just, like our neighbors, we want more cool neighbors. And so we're trying to continue the pattern that's kind of been happening at the top of the loop up there, and get some more people to be able to enjoy the great community up there and the good views, and hopefully bring more people that are like-minded to growth and up there in Petersboro. I think that's all I had. Thanks.
Any other comments? Please come forward and state your name. Please come forward and state your name.
My name is Kent Baker. I live in Petersboro at 165 North, 7100 West. I am also living on the old family homestead, which is now Willow Ranch LLC and the JFB Family Partnership, for which I am the farm manager. I like the idea that we're not going to have 49 houses up there, if there really are 20, and that would keep more with the rural area. But I am also in charge of a farm that has water rights. We have 80 acres of pasture that have spring-fed water troughs. I have a lower field that is prime agricultural land. It's silty loam, very productive, on which we can irrigate 20 acres. We're thinking of maybe putting 10 of it into pasture. We've been talking to Extension about that. But I'm concerned that my water comes from, I think, almost the same drainage as they are taking their water from. And if they divert it, I'm afraid it will impact my ability to maintain my agricultural work that I'm trying to maintain. So I would really, I'm against doing this because it might be detrimental to everything that my family has done here for well over 100 years. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
Cody Mickelson. I live at 440 North, 7200 West, just across the highway of the proposed acreage, or not highway, just county road. I am opposed to this proposal. I'm not opposed to continued development under the current zoning that's currently there. That's how we all got our homes there, is under the current zoning requirements. But I am opposed to changing the zoning to increase the amount of homes that could be there, particularly because of what it states that needs to be for a rural 2 zone, that there must be appropriately served by suitable public roads, have access to necessary water and utilities, and have adequate provision to public services. There's not much of that out there. In fact, there's only electricity for public services out there. As Kent just explained, the biggest concern is water. Most of us who have, or all of us who have individual wells in that area are deep wells, mine's particularly 480 feet. So it's a limited aquifer that we're accessing in that area. There are springs, and I know there are springs that come from the proposed area that actually serve other homes that aren't in that proposed acreage. And so my concern would also be to what would that do for those homes that are getting water from that area. And so for those reasons, I am opposed to changing the zoning for that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jason Coy. I also live in the area, 7036 West, 600 North, just kind of down the road and around the corner. I'm also opposed to the development. A lot of similar reasons that have been mentioned, but my well also is 430 feet deep. Water is a primary concern, as well as the safety of my kids and just if there's, that many more people driving up and down that road, that presents a safety issue. I also think that just based on what a lot of people in the area are looking for, the wide open spaces. There's a reason why we bought our lot 5 or 6 years ago and built last year. But this was our dream. This was why we chose Petersboro over other places that had subdivisions nearby. We wanted to get out in the country, and this is the place that offered that. And I think that you add pollution, whether it's noise pollution, light pollution, whatever, plus the traffic and the water concerns. I think there's just a lot of that really becomes a big concern, and I think it changes the way of life for a lot of people if these larger subdivisions are brought too close to home. So, thank you.
Thank you.
People make two public comments?
Yes, you can come back up and.
Yeah, they have, they usually can.
Sorry, I forgot. Rye Lund. I forgot to mention, I have talked to the Utah Division of Water Rights, Skylar and Ted over there. They said there's no problem transferring those water rights. He said it wouldn't be impossible. So we do have water rights lined up to purchase. So if that's a big concern, it's not, because the engineers of this region said it's not. The other thing, oh gosh, now I forgot. Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tarina Lund. This is my land. I miss the old days where you could do whatever you wanted with your own land. When we came from England, it was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness defined as you could do what you wanted with your own land. And now it sits to 6 people to tell me, and my neighbors who can tell me what I can do with my land. That's my livelihood that I get to do with because I was divorced. And that's all I have to provide for the rest of my life. Unless I want to go, I don't know, flip burgers. But, and I understand there's a concern. Like I said, we were only going to do less than 20 lots, but you know, I have to pave the whole road. I have to improve the road because some of my neighbors didn't improve the road when they got approved for their lots. I find it very hypocritical, actually, that some of them got to, you know, develop and do their lots, and they're here to oppose me. Interesting. I want you all to be in my face and know who was going to be able to develop that land. I wanted to make it pretty. Some of those lots are meant to go to my other 2 children, my girls, who I was going to give land to for their inheritance. One of those lots would have to pay for the entire road, if not 2. One has to go to develop the rest of the land on the bottom the way the county wants. I mean, one of those lots has to go to pay for all the water rights. You get the idea. Anyway, I just wanted you to see my face, and I wanted to see yours. I hope that you'll seriously consider our proposal.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
My name is Tana Wardle. I am Larry and Dana Yonk's daughter. They're back there at the beginning, or they were at the very beginning of all of this. My dad's family owned all the land, but had to have it rezoned so that you guys could live out there. You can't stop progression. I know that we want wide open land, and that's great, but the valley is filling up. Utah is filling up. It's not going to stop. I don't know anything about how many lots there is, but when my mom and dad initially bought the land out there, it was to provide somewhere for their children to live. Not developing it is taking away their dream. I mean, you talk about the American dream. They can't do what they want with their land that they bought 30 years ago so that I could go live out there. And now other people are determining that. And it's not just me. It's my sister. It's my brother, my children. It's, I don't know. So I do hope you consider maybe it doesn't have to be that many lots, but really in order to put in the road, to put in the water that will be required to bring the power up, to bring up the utilities, that costs money. We know the city doesn't pay for that. We know we have to pay for that. That's why we have to have so many lots. So I do hope you consider it, because it's more than just not putting houses out there or water rights. It's gonna happen. It's just, do you want good, honest people that have owned the land for more than 100 years, or do you want people that are really just have the money to buy it? Maybe that's what it's about. I don't know. But we do care about the land, and we care about the people beneath. We're all together in this, one for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
She was in favor. Huh? She was in, yeah, okay. I think she's family.
I'm Jennifer Nilsson. I'm a realtor. I'm with Equity Real Estate, and I've been working with Trina. So the other option is if she can't do this and she needs the money, she'll be selling to a big developer, and we know what they do. They'll come in and they'll have the money and the resources, and one way or the other, that land will be developed. It's whether you want somebody that's going to care about the land and do it, caring about her neighbors and their needs, or whether you're going to want to deal with somebody else, because in the end, she does have to do something with the land. So I really hope you'll consider it and let her, maybe less lots, but somehow develop so that she can be in control, the family can stay in control, and they can do it where they take everybody's needs into consideration instead of someone who wouldn't.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to make a comment? Okay.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, maybe before we start our discussion, we just address the question of the number of lots on there, and really what we're talking about is to allow 20 lots or whatever, it needs to go to this zone, and it's really, if what we're considering tonight is the zoning change, and so whatever they want or not, if we make the change in the zone, then it would allow up to the 49 lots on that parcel, and so that's what we have to consider is the potential density that could be there. Whether they build that much is, up to the applicant if it's approved.
That's a good point.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
So, and I apologize if I overlooked this in our notes, but if I understand correctly, right now, with 98 acres, as long as this hasn't been split up, they could realistically build 9 homes right now and not even have to come in here. Well, they may have to for the subdivision. They're gonna have to meet the road requirements and such, but right now, they're given 9 homes. Is that correct?
Sort of. It'd be 7 since they already have 2 building lots.
2 parcels.
Yeah, so essentially what would happen is there's already a house on 17, and then to solve the issue with 125211, that's the one that's causing the issue in terms of the restriction. So they have 2 lots, so they could add 7 on top of that.
So they could have 7 more, okay.
Yeah.
That was, appreciate you clarifying them 2 homes. And there was a lot said. Yeah, we all appreciate and understand property rights. But when we look at a zone of this magnitude, the county is not financially in a position to manage, especially in that area. At least my thoughts.
In the past, RU2s we've done have been a lot closer to a city.
And
City
5,
boundaries.
much smaller, 5.
And an RU5 rezone on something like this would get them almost to the 20 lots. Right, they'd minus, that'd be 19, they've already got 2, potentially 17 new lots. If that, it might fit a little bit, or it's still pretty big, and they might lose a couple, because some of that ground, the forest, some of those acres might get taken out with the rezone. Right, they didn't show that in there yet, but.
But I don't think our county's even prepared
Yeah,
at
the
this point
RU2s.
for an R5.
Yeah, that's a lot of lots up that road.
Yeah.
That doesn't meet our current plan.
Yeah.
49 lots, I mean, that's basically dropping a town into an area without any services.
And it would fall into what we're looking at, right? The county council placed a moratorium on new subdivisions over 5 lots, so we can look at water issues around the county. And this is one area in the county that with the groundwater study going on, that does need to have some looked at, because it's true, you can buy water rights and transfer them there.
It don't make no more
The
water.
state engineer will let you transfer it there. It doesn't mean if we punch 20 more wells that they'll all have reliable water supply. So that's something, with the current discussions we're having with the county council, we need to figure out some more before we look at these higher density subdivisions. Because if you look at that map in the packet, in that whole area right there on the map, and it doesn't show all of them down Center Street, there's some more homes lower down there, but there's 30 homes on that. It's putting 2/3 of those all just on that parcel, and that's getting pretty tight out there for that area. Again, that's what we, in the master plan, it has us looking that more next to city boundaries, at least the way I.
That's a good thing to bring up, too, the reminder that Mendon City is against this because their future annexation area is where this is at. They're opposed to it because of the water, and also probably doesn't meet their future infrastructure needs.
Well, there was also a comment Mr. Chairman made that if these people don't get it, they'll sell it to a developer. They're not gonna have any better luck trying with the developer than they are personally. So they can sell it, but it's not gonna happen, most likely.
Not in the short term.
Any other comments? Okay, ready for a motion?
Want me to make it again? I've made them all tonight so far.
Someone's gotta make it.
Nope.
No, the public hearing is closed.
I'll make a recommendation that we recommend to the county council denial of the rezone of the Mountain Manor Springs rezone with the, yeah, based on the conclusions. How many are there?
There's 5.
5 conclusions.
You want to add a 6 that says Mendon City's against it?
We can add 6, but Mendon City's letter they sent out after this was prepared.
All right, do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Like we talked about before, number 6 off Saddle Ridge subdivision, so we'll move down to number 7, discussion Powder Mountain master plan.
Actually, I think we're on 5 right
The
now.
water right, or water use.
Sorry, I skipped
Water
that.
master plan.
Water master plan, thank you.
Yeah, and our consultant Aubrey Larson, she was here a couple months ago to give a presentation on this. Unfortunately, she's not able to make it in person, but we think we've mastered the tech to bring her up on the screen. Yeah, so getting fancy around here. But yeah, so let's see if we can get her on. But yeah, this would be a public hearing to recommend either approval or denial to county council to adopt it. As a reminder, this is a state mandated update to the general plan that needs to be adopted by the end of the year. Based on our previous discussions and an email I sent out, we didn't have any further changes from the last time you looked at it. So we will get her on here. Promise we did practice this a couple times. So.
We did practice. I will swear on a stack of Bibles.
Well, I know when I was in here with Janine earlier, seeing how to use all that for our board meeting Monday, I knew I was gonna have problems on Monday too, the
Yeah.
first couple times till we get it figured out.
Yeah, we had training yesterday and then yeah, we started at what, 3:30 practicing?
Yeah.
We did practice, I swear.
We were flawless in practice. Well practiced.
We all read through it, good.
Yeah.
Maybe
Hey,
go through and approve it without it.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we clarified, I don't know if the applicant on that last one understands or not, but they'll still have an opportunity before the council.
Yeah,
You maybe want to
Did you hear
explain
that?
that? Did you hear what I
You
said?
have another opportunity to plead your case to the county council.
No.
No.
at-
No,
They're
the-
meet,
the
they're,
next-
it'll be on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll set a public hearing on their next meeting on the 14th, so it'll probably be on the 28th, but we'll send you a letter and updates on that, so. Aubrey, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hallelujah.
I can kind of hear you.
If I talk louder, is that better?
Yes, that's better.
All right, we're gonna get you up on the screen here so you can do your presentation.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. We have the owl in, so yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
Perfect. If I share my screen, will it pop up for you guys?
It will as soon as we get you up there.
Okay.
We were just telling them that we did practice this But it's not
I
quite
have
going as
the
smoothly as
YouTube
Cactus.
live on, so I was trying to follow.
Okay, yep, looks like we have you up on the screen.
Okay, so you can see my presentation? Perfect. Thank you for accommodating me. I apologize. I have what I thought was a cold turned out to be COVID, so thought I'd spare you. So my goal this evening is to just give some background information on the Cache County water use and preservation element, and then just quickly a refresher of the content of the document, and then if there's any questions or discussion, we can make some time for that. Okay. So project background, first of all, who was involved? Myself, I work for a firm called Landmark Design, and we partnered with Hanson, Allen, and Luce, who did the more data-intensive analysis as part of this project. We also worked with county staff. I know Brandon Bell has moved on to a new position, but he was fantastic to work with. Angie, and then our steering committee. Special thanks to Nate and Nolan for your support throughout this project and giving us some really important insights. Even taking a step further back, I thought it would be helpful, just a quick reminder, what's the role of the general plan, as this will function as a new chapter. It's an advisory guide to land use decisions, describes generally where you are, where you want to be, how you'll get there, and it does not create regulations
there any questions? And then, again, this is a public hearing, so I want to open that up.
Okay. That's a question. She said the current goal is 18.1%, but that was the old number. What's the new number for water savings? Gallons per day?
They haven't finalized their new updated
Okay,
basin-wide numbers.
okay.
It will probably be bigger.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot bigger. Okay. Well, should we open to a public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the public hearing on this water element.
Okay,
I second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here who'd like to make a comment about this water plan?
Ryan Lund. I just had a question, because there's a subdivision moratorium right now going on because of water, but I called the Utah Division of Water Rights, and they had no idea about it. So I don't understand, maybe you guys are talking to the state about this stuff, or is it at a local level, or, you know, they seriously had no idea about it. I told them about the moratorium, and then
There's two differences. Water is ran by the state. The moratorium was enacted by the county. So it's different, and actually, the water department should know about that because they attended a meeting here last week about our moratorium and what our outlook is on water.
last week.
Yes. Okay. And so, yeah, they're not stopping putting out water rights, because that's up to the state. The big thing, as Mr. Nathan has described, is the water study that is going on by the state right now. So that is being anticipated by many, many people to see what that finds. So the moratorium, and remember too, such as what Mr. Watterson explained, when you rezone a request to rezone to RU2, once you put the RU2 in there, then even though you told us you only want 20 homes, it's a capacity of 49. So somebody can go more, so.
Yeah, we just got a recommendation from someone on the planning commission to do RU2 first, and then if that didn't go, do RU5. But I was like, I don't know, but we were gonna do RU5, but on the planning commission, we went off that recommendation, but which is fine. But so the plan is to like limit water use, and
If I might just offer, and I'm not saying you don't understand it, I'm just kind of clarifying.
yeah, I'm trying
I
to ask
mean,
questions.
if you already had a water tank on the hill out there, if you already had a supply, your problems are solved. If you were also sitting right on top of an aquifer, it's better. But when you listen to your neighbors and their wells are 400 plus feet deep, and you're in one of the driest areas in the county, Mendon City themselves stopped all building altogether until they could find additional water. This is protecting you in a way, because you go to all the cost of developing this, and then people go out there and they can't find water. You can buy water rights, but just because you got a water right out there doesn't guarantee that you have water.
Right. Yeah, we were proposing that we could drill a big, like, just a one well to feed into.
Yeah, we're over.
So this is really outside of this here.
It is.
Right.
So we don't want to get in discussion on your item. It'll come back up.
Right.
But yeah, your questions for the water element plan.
I'm good.
Were valid.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments?
Propose we close the public hearing.
Okay. Second?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Close the hearing.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think it's a really good plan.
Well, we spent a long time on it, so hopefully it's pretty good.
Looks good, and I think it meets what the county's ultimate goal is to preserve agriculture and also sustain growth in a manageable way.
I'll give my one beef about it, and that's map 6. And the color scheme. For those of us that are red-green colorblind, that's a pretty terrible map. Those subtle differences in purple don't work very well.
Don't help
Page
you
is
out.
that, Jason?
19?
Is that the aquifer map?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I can change that easily. Sorry about that.
It all looks great to you.
No, I can see but the subtle differences, you look at the 4 different purple shades.
It's
not
yeah,
easy.
Jason's done that question. Go ahead.
The question I have is, you said that the homes take up, I can't remember their exact percentage, a small percentage of water, and most of it is groundwater. Is that just county, or are we including Logan City in that?
This plan is looking at the county,
Just the county?
but it's the same. All cities rely on groundwater too for their,
Right.
for their
I know Logan
culinary.
City does.
Yeah,
Has
every
some.
city does, whether it's a spring or a well.
But Logan City depends majorly on Logan River to provide their water, except for the wells they have on the west.
Yeah,
Not
the
Logan
big
River,
DeWitt Spring.
Yeah.
Which
But
is
it's-
groundwater.
Yeah, it's still
not
groundwater.
surface.
Yeah, we don't have any city in the valley that takes river water and treats it for their residents. And the reason in there it showed that in the county, right, residential takes more than ag is because a lot of our development, similar to this one that was proposed tonight, right, is happening on dry farmland. So there's zero irrigation today. If we put 20 homes, and even if they each only irrigate an acre around their house, right, we've increased the irrigation quite a bit on that ground.
But if they buy water shares out of the Logan River Highline Canal and want to transfer them to Petersboro, that's impossible.
No, it's not impossible. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
An awfully long pipe.
It's not, they just transfer it to groundwater and then they can pump it out. Yeah, so it happens, every city does that, right? They take surface shares, do a change application, they transfer those shares to their well. They were coming out of the Logan River, now they're coming out of a well, maybe on the other side of the county. That happens fairly often.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
That brought up part of one of my questions that they're talking about, and then just canal companies in general. So have we first taken into consideration that canal companies that are still open are actually contributing to our groundwater? And have we looked at what happens if they pipe? We've seen that happen in areas. People had wells that worked great until they piped the canal, and then the next thing you know, their well goes dry. Yeah, it's happened. But with that said, I don't know if this is a county issue or if it's a canal by canal, but is it really healthy for us, or is it law that we have no control over, taking water from an area that has water and moving it to an area that really doesn't have water but gives them a right to try and get water? I'm not a fan of that. But who controls that? The state? So that's out of our control.
That's a state engineer.
That's state law. And to your first comment, this groundwater study is looking at that, right? It's assessing the canals too, and which ones are critical to our recharge. Because not all of them are, but some of them,
But you've got a
some of them
canal
are really critical to our
that
recharge.
canal that runs the whole west side.
Yeah, so they're
From
looking at-
Hiram over through Menden.
They're looking at all
If they
those.
pipe that baby, I'd be real surprised, especially when you listen to them people coming here and talk about no water,
Some
what
of
that
those-
would, what that would do to their homes.
Some of those real shallow ones that are relying on some of those springs and stuff, it's probably not getting to those 450-foot wells, but some of those older homes that have shallow wells, for sure. it's
We just
getting
don't
into
ever want to be in the position of being caught between the developer or the homeowner in that scenario when the canal company was there first and has the right to pipe their canal.
We might see that on that one in the next decade.
Your point's well taken, Brady.
Well,
You have a very good point.
Well, 10 years ago, we didn't, in water, we didn't talk about depletion. You know, we only talked about diversion. And as we study it, we talk more and more about it, we begin to understand, you know, what that depletion of our water supply means if we're not recharging it. And we weren't, because that's all we measured for 150 years was diversion. And, you know, now, you know, an example this summer that happened here is the West Cache Canal over on the west side, pressurized from Trenton coming south, a big chunk of that. And if you drove the Highway 218 between Smithfield, between Amalga and Newton this summer, I've never in my life seen the clay slough dry most of the summer. And granted, it was a dry year, but right there off the highway, it was dry.
And how many of those fields below the canal couldn't farm all their acres until they piped it?
Until they piped that. So we're already seeing some unintended consequences of doing that. And it was great, it was progress, it's helped those farmers out by doing it, but we have to take those consequences into consideration as part of this plan.
Well, I think it's like Brady said, yeah, where does the county, right, get involved in those, right? If a canal company wants to pipe their canal, we give them a conditional use permit, that's really our only, only interaction.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just we have to recognize there's consequences that, you know, these folks are drilling wells and they go dry.
Or they drill them and there's no water.
Or there's no water.
It's a staggering figure, 2,000 acre feet in additional water we have to come up with by, if that many homes do come in by 2060.
Well, and it may not be additional, right? Because some of those would be developed on irrigated ground, and so those shares would transfer. So, and in this, there was no way to assess what percentage of those might happen on irrigated ground and what percentage of those homes will be built on dry farm. So it's, I think it's a close number for what the acre feet is requirement. But it's hard to say if that's really new water.
Have any studies been done on what nature provides and the level of water in the ground over years?
That's part of what this groundwater study the state is doing right now will assess, right? If we go to a more rain-driven scenario and less snow or earlier melt, that's gonna change how the water goes into the aquifer. And so that's one of the reasons the Water District requested this updated groundwater study, because the last one was done in '93. Right, it's been a long time since they've looked at it. We've had some differences in our snowpack and
a lot
runoff.
of people drawing it out.
Yeah, and so we're looking at that, but it is looking at all those things combined. And on the side of that, the state is building a new tool that you can run all kinds of scenarios for each basin on. That's going to be really helpful for us to be able to run some of those scenarios.
Back to my question about the state water rights are the ones that basically control the movement of water. Can canal companies restrict that within their company?
You can have it in your bylaws that they can't sell shares outside the company, but if they have the right water attorney, you can't stop them. You can make it a little harder, but you can't totally stop them. The only one that can is Wellsville Minden, so that's a Bureau water right, and it's actually tied to the parcel number, so it has to stay on that parcel. Those are the only shares I'm aware of in the county that, no matter how good your attorney is, you can't split those shares off that ground. They stay there.
What about storage water? So like Hiram Dam, you know, they have, is that convertible?
Well, it's all the Bureau water, right? So serves all that, is that Bureau water.
That's all Bureau?
Yeah, and so
okay.
it's pretty tough to do much different with that.
Porcupine's same?
No, Porcupine
Could
could potentially.
be,
but,
potentially.
If it goes into to Hiram?
Well, or you
users between there.
There's a lot of canal companies, so their shares could be moved around potentially.
Was there any discussion through this, just reemphasizing protection of the water sources, the areas where we have either surface water or, you know?
So I think, and I don't remember if it came up in here as one of the recommended, because one of the ones that when we talked about it at our joint meeting the other day too, is getting a better source water protection.
Yes.
Code amendment or whatever we need to update. So we did talk about that a little bit. But again, it may have been one of the recommendations. I don't know if it was in that one or not. But that's where we would come up with that.
I think we were cognizant of the fact of protecting the water rights that are here, even though we're tasked with conservation and stopping the use, but still making beneficial use of the water rights we have, and that's what Nate and I try to look at, especially on the agricultural ground, saying, okay, if you got this much and you're gonna save it by 10%, where's that 10% saving
we definitely don't want to lose it.
Absolutely not. We want to keep it in the valley. There we go.
So are we making a motion, you want a motion from us then to accept this or recommend it to the council of approval? It's definitely some good information.
It's 100% better than what we had in there for water element.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend the Cache County water use and preservation element discuss state to the county council.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Aubrey. We're gonna disconnect. So.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Item number 7, we'll have the discussion on the Powder Mountain Master Plan.
While he's coming up, are we okay to even ask staff or legal? Do we know what's going on with 6? Are they just re-strategizing or rethinking, or does it even matter?
They'll be back, my understanding is they'll be back next month.
They'll be back?
They just weren't quite ready.
Essentially, be looking for a decision on the main issue of the fire access.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would also add that Public Works is actually in the process of doing a survey out there to determine what rights of way have been dedicated and not along the existing road.
Where do I plug in?
Going from one to the other.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have my secret decoder ring connected.
So tonight with your presentation, are you guys just pretty much giving us an update where we're at today on things?
Well, I thought tonight we'd review the content of the plan really quickly and then just have a discussion about the proposed recommendations and conditions for approval of the application. As I mentioned last month, you know, we found that the application itself is complete, and we just want to make sure that the proposed conditions get addressed, and then answer any other questions that the council might have or commission might have for it. So. All right, so here's the slideshow that I didn't have for you last time.
Can you please state your name?
Oh, yes, sorry. Good evening, I'm Brian Carver, planner for JUB Engineers, working with the Development Services Department to review the Powder Mountain Master Plan for completeness, and work on identifying conditions for, appropriate conditions for approval. So the purpose of the plan, of course, is to present development concepts for the site, both short and long term, and then look at future directions for development, and then balance those developed facilities and other amenities with the surrounding environment. The contents of the plan as required by the county code include maps, both topographic as well as topical, based on
different uses and environmental factors, any restrictions on the property, details on existing and proposed features, general development concepts, and then public services that will be available or provided to the site. The code also requires statements from a list of affected entities, and as well as proof of title and tax clearances for each of the parcels involved. There's an environmental summary with about 10 elements required, as well as a financial analysis for the project. The code does require a development agreement, but that's an outdated artifact since the state law was changed recently prohibiting development agreements for this type of project in Title 17 of the state code. So we are proceeding without one. As I mentioned last time, our findings are that there's substantial compliance and completeness with the document. There aren't any major concerns raised by the information provided on the site, but the biggest obstacle for making sure that this gets done correctly is that Cache County has a responsibility to work with Weber County to make sure that interlocal agreements are in place to provide the necessary services to future development, primarily fire and EMS and law enforcement.
Do you mind if we ask a question on
Sure.
that? So that folder that they sent out was pretty amazing with all the documents back in 24 on, maps, etc. But Nolan, has there ever been any official, like, has the Weber Commission met with the county council, or, I know they just got a 3 type of government, but has there ever really been face-to-face interaction about this?
Council to council, no, but fire department to fire department, yes. I believe the sheriff and the sheriff has talked, have they not, Sandy? So there is some communication, but there still needs to be drawing down to an agreement, so yeah, it's a good question. I've had concerns about that as well.
Prior to any approval, that would need to be in place, correct?
Fire and EMTs, I mean, they signed from last October, there's documentation of.
Interlocal agreement hasn't, I mean, the details of that have not, there's no signatures on that.
Because of the necessity of these agreements is, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was your question, Nolan? Sorry.
I want to go back to Jason's question. As far as the interlocal agreements, I don't know if they have to be done before or signed before, or when does that come into consideration that the interlocal agreements are signed between Weber and Cache for this
The master plan.
project? Yes.
The way I'm viewing it, you could have a condition of the master plan be that interlocals are in place prior to, basically make it a condition. And I'm not tracking that they're, I was looking into this before, maybe that's a question on people while we're getting there, while we're talking about this. As far as the current status of that interlocal between Cache and Weber County, you mentioned in the report that there was some language sent to our office for consideration, and that we're certainly willing to do that, but when I talked to Taylor and others in our office, I haven't seen that yet, so I just wanted to clarify, level the playing field on that point. So I'm not sure if you have that language, or, and then my understanding as well is that fire and the sheriff and all are all in those conversations, that those details do need to be ironed out, and I think that is a very valid point. And where that falls on approving the master plan with a condition subject to these interlocals being entered into, I think that's kind of up to, it's up for debate and discussion. Could it be a condition of the master plan? I think so. Or could it be, hey, we have to have these in effect prior to, so we make sure everything's in place? I think that can be up for debate as well. Long way to answer your question. It depends.
Always depends. But I agree, it's an important part of this, so thanks for the questions on it. It's certainly something we need to drill down and make sure these guys have an understanding, as well as the council too.
Yeah, and I've got a recommendation on how we could handle that a little further on.
Okay.
As you've seen through the documentation, the existing conditions are mapped pretty clearly. This is a very, wide scale view of the property. There are some more detailed exhibits in your packets, and then it's also pretty easy to zoom and pan if you're using an electronic device to get in and see the site in a good level of detail. Similarly, the concepts for proposed land uses and proposed development features. Also, there are a couple of detail maps provided that we believe address all of the requisite points of the application requirements. The environmental summary, there are a couple of issues that are pretty clear cut. There are no floodplains on the site. There are no historical sites on the site. The air quality impact for development of this proposal based on the altitude and air movement on the site, air quality impact to the county would be negligible. There are a few concerns with geology. Of course, this is a really tricky site geologically to develop. A lot of exposed bedrock, a lot of dissolute bedrock, which means it's breaking down. It's no longer really solid, but not in a very even way. So there are potentials for expansive soils, which are clayey type soils that when exposed to water, they expand rapidly and they can cause problems with housing foundations. And then just the general variability of the geology and soils across the site are challenging for development purposes. So the geotechnical reviews all recommend additional site-specific studies, preferably at the subdivision approval level going forward with development. Hydrology is similar. There are some drainage challenges, soil challenges, and management of precipitation that would contribute to stormwater management on site. And so, again, more site-specific detail ought to be required once we get into the subdivision design scale. Vegetation and wildlife, it's a complex ecosystem up there. The Department of Natural Resources, divisions of wildlife resources and forestry, fire, and state land have both reviewed this proposal and provided comment, along with recommendations on best practices that can be integrated, and Powder Mountain in their support memo has stated a number of those best management practices that they're willing to implement going forward to maintain habitat integrity and as well as protecting sensitive species and other plants and animal resources up there.
Do you have any of the communication from the division?
Yes.
And none of it's in our packet, is it?
It should be in. Well, I can show you.
And we can cover it later. I just kind of curious.
6.8.
7?
6.7 and 6.8.
Yeah, that's
all right there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's got correspondence between the applicant and those divisions and the documentation that they've provided in response.
Thanks.
There we go. Similarly, they, as part of the environmental summary, they contracted for a traffic analysis, which looked at the area in 5-year and 25-year increments, and within at least the next 5 years, traffic as a result of development on site, congestion is still manageable. Looking forward to the 2050 horizon, things get a little less manageable, but the analysis had several recommendations for signalization of intersections and additions of right and left turn lanes to facilitate traffic movement. In the comment provided by the Utah Department of Transportation, there were concerns that the existing study doesn't address the condition of the state route that serves the ski area. It has areas of steep slopes, sharp curves, and so additional study might be necessary to take into account what improvements might be needed, safety barriers, things like that, as traffic increases along that road.
Question, does that
Yes.
include development on both sides of the county line?
Yes, it does.
So that there's access to fire and everything if need be from the north end?
No, it does not address access from the north end. It's strictly the Weber County side access. So.
They're supposed to provide most of it, or all of it?
Yep. So some of our recommendations, the existing development agreement that the applicant has with Weber County has a condition in it that as development approaches a certain density level, a certain number of units, that a new traffic safety study should be required. I think it would be appropriate for Cache County to have something similar in place. You know, where exactly that trigger number is, I think, is up for discussion. But some sort of threshold that once that's reached, once that development threshold is reached, that a new traffic study should be required that looks into additional issues like road conditions and safety beyond just the traffic congestion, emergency access, things like that. In discussions with the county and the applicant, we feel like a tracking of a development tracking and communication structure needs to be organized and put in place so that as development occurs, there's an incremental tracking of what's already been approved, what's already been built, and what the next application or next phase is going to look like.
Do you have a recommendation on that, of that tracking?
We've got kind of an outline. Yeah, we could probably put a little more detail into that. We would recommend that soils and hydrology studies be considered at those subdivision level development milestones, as well as cultural resource inventories and best practices. It's a big site. The State Historical Preservation Office doesn't require a cultural resource inventory because it's not federal property or it's not using federal money to develop the property. So, but there are some best management practices that could be put into place because of the historical agricultural and mining uses of the property. There is a likelihood that there are some historical artifacts or other resources on site but in their, again, in their support memo, the applicants put in their consent to utilize those best management practices. So. And then again, the interlocal agreement between the two counties is a key issue. It is my opinion that is not material to approving the conditional use permit for this master plan application. However, I would recommend that it be put into place before any sort of development or perhaps occupancy permits are issued. You know, we don't want houses and people on the ground without those critical services guaranteed to be in place.
So will you restate what your concern is having in place one more time before this is approved?
I would recommend that the interlocal agreement be in place before any occupancy permits are issued for development on the site.
But it's even gotta be before that, doesn't it? Before building permits are issued? Cause you get structures going up and you've got problems.
That's true, that's true. That's a good point. So that might be a better way to revise that. That before building permits are issued, the interlocal agreement being put in place. The county, we ought to come up with a timeline to make sure that that gets done in a timely fashion, because it's not really something that the applicant has any control over. So I don't think it's appropriate to hold them hostage over progress on the master plan adoption or on site development, but it is definitely a priority.
Services aren't there,
Exactly,
there shouldn't be development.
yeah. But that puts, I believe that puts the onus on the county to make sure that that gets done.
One question I have. This development is almost from nothing to something bigger than maybe even Park City eventually, I don't know. But are we learning things from Park Cities and other areas that have been developed like that?
Absolutely, yeah, we've been examining Park City, the Heber Valley, Deer Park Deer Valley areas, as well as looking at similar sized resort developments out of state, around the region, looking at ways to looking at both their management plans and looking at the county ordinances that are in place to govern these types of developments for comparative examples of how to do this. So, Weber County actually already has quite a well-written code in place. They've been working with Powder Mountain for a long time, and they've been managing these types of activities for quite a while, and so they've been very helpful and their development, their planning office has been really helpful in providing information as we look into this. So that's all I've got. If you want, we can look at individual elements of the plan. I'm sure the representatives from Powder Mountain would be happy to take questions if you have them.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question for you. So, I'm really glad you pointed out this. I briefly looked through the folder, but I'd overlooked this fire and the communication between Forest Department of Forestry and what have you. Is there going to be any minimums of clearance around structures as far as trying to preserve structures in the event of a fire?
Those details, that level of detail hasn't been put into the document yet, but let's take a look.
Well, the only reason I ask is from an insurance standpoint, things have really changed over the last 3 years, and it's based off of historic fires. And so to start with, if you've ever had a fire in the area before, you're batting uphill to start with.
Oh yeah.
But as we've observed, I mean, it's obvious, them forest fires get going and they're throwing fires a mile ahead, and these homes are toast if they're not got
a defensible space,
a defense area around them. And I know that's more than we're here to discuss tonight, but I just was curious if that was how that was being addressed or thought of.
The county already does have some standards for development in the wildland urban interface, which this would fall under. So I would assume that those would already apply.
Will Weber have more say on that if we enact that? Will they be more in control or concern over that if once the interlocal agreement's signed where they're the ones monitoring it, or does that affect cash in any way?
No, I think they would probably want to have some input into that, yeah.
I definitely think it needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Our building inspectors from Cass County are the ones who will be doing the building inspection down there on
They
the
will.
county side, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I did
It's a day
actually ask
trip.
our chief building
Huh?
commissioner
A day
if they
trip
were
to
going to
inspection.
contract with Weaver or not, and they felt that they could take on all of those inspections.
We can offer per diem and maybe just put a tent up or something, they can stay over.
Let them stay at the new fire station up there.
I don't know if the inspector would like it.
And maybe if I could just ask a question and just process, I mean, we're looking at master plan here, and I think some of the things that we're concerned about, you know.
Or out of it.
Are maybe.
Too detailed.
Looking at the details of the conditional use or whatever tool that it goes through at that point. Is that correct, Connor, as we look at that, Angie? We'll have another chance to look at those specific details, materials of construction, things like that we could put a condition on.
It's just worth noting now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the components that we're looking at after the master plan is kind of developing development standards and a process for all of that. So we're going to make it very context-based just because there are such differences in topography and context up there. Some of those development standards will be flexible and allow planning commission to make specific findings on specific development plans.
There are some things that are, I think, down the road, but, you know, dark sky lighting, I think, would be really appropriate for this development, because that's probably one of the biggest impacts for residents of Cache County, is we put a city up on the mountain. It's gonna stand out there, and I wanna make sure that we don't miss that. If that's something that needs to be in at this stage, I kinda got an idea that we'll get another look at it to develop that.
Yeah, the dark sky lighting is specifically addressed in their support memo, 6.7, 6.8. But yeah, but that's also, that's a project design guideline that they've agreed to.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
So we need to make a motion on this tonight? Not yet? Okay. Angie shaking her head no.
up for action next month.
Give us one more.
You guys have done a terrific amount of work. It's pretty cool to see that many documents in the folder, plus more.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
She wants to comment.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah.
How much more involvement is Jevin gonna be on this? I mean, have you completed your task? Or where does this engagement continue on?
Well, so the primary tasks in our contract were to review and report on the plan itself, look into some concerns over the availability of water, and then the last task is to address some inconsistencies with subdivisions up there that may be crossing the county line, looking at some ways to remedy how to get those lot lines to behave, or maybe get the county line to behave. But it's so that's all we've got at this point. I'm happy to continue to assist if there's anything else that we can help with. You know, working through the design standards. I've already provided staff with some examples of design standards, but if it makes sense for us to help continue to work with the county to refine those, we're ready, willing, and able. I've already had some of our staff with experience in negotiating interlocal agreements volunteer, but that's something between I think the county attorney's office and
Put it all on him.
that we can discuss later. But you know, you may have somebody else already in mind to help with that, and that's just fine. But yeah, so we're about done. You know, we've.
Sounds good. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that would be great. Hi,
Hi, Brooke Hantz with Powder Mountain. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. And I especially thank JUB and Brian for that presentation and I thank you for reading all those materials because there's a lot to get through. So for him to, and their team to have spent the time and done the work on behalf of the county and come to the conclusions that he had on the screen previously is very helpful because in essence it says, yeah, we met or exceeded the standard, we've done the work, and now it comes down to what types of things or conditions of approval are necessary or beneficial, at least at a minimum, to put, to memorialize, to make sure that what you get and what we want are one and the same, and that we deliver on that, and the county's expectations and the applicants, frankly, are both met. And so some of the questions I just wanted to quickly see if I could address. I love the dark sky question. It is in the packet. We are committed to that, and in fact, in Weber County, we already have that regulation, but it would not really be that great if one county we were bright sky and the other dark. So that is something that please take a look at, and always willing to consider additional options, but basically we're following the international dark sky protocols. WUI, the defensible space, the fire. You may all be aware that currently of the 52 homes that are currently built there and the multiple structures that exist, mostly in Weber County, as you're aware, because that's who's given us permitting under existing zoning that they have there. There are more stringent requirements because it is a wildland-urban interface, and so unlike most homes in the valley here that don't need to be sprinkled, there are protections in place there on top of just what you can plant and where, and so how much water is available, fire flows, and et cetera. And Weber and Cache, we've been able to have multiple conversations and in-person meetings with both fire districts, and I felt like I can't speak for them, but they were really aligned in the necessary things that are going to have to take place in order to make sure that we protect the lives and structures there. But that's very important to us. Interlocal, I appreciate JUB's suggestion of working through this and delivering on a master plan CUP approval, and then going to, and maybe, you know, from the county's perspective, putting some pressure and some demands on the fire districts. As you're aware, again, Weber currently serves and they're gonna continue to serve. And any pressures of Cache starting to allow a building, it would make that and necessitate them to actually have a new agreement. There was an agreement at one time, but a new agreement in place. But what the master plan not only does that pressure piece, what it also does is it says, we've committed to this project and development's going to happen like this in these locations. And so I feel like the interlocal becomes a better document because now they're working from, this is happening, now this is what we have to get to agree to, and we have some parameters for what we can expect and what we can then negotiate together, that being the two districts, not Powder Mountain's involvement. And then I think there was another question I also appreciated about whether we've looked at other communities and done this before. And I loved the reference and the appreciation of the Weber County Code because I actually wrote that and wrote the work that in the master plan that we got approved on that side. I also, Deer Valley East, Mayflower Development was also referenced. That was also my project. So this is what I do. And so this is very much in alignment with what we have done in other communities. In some cases, this is actually more dense and more thorough than what we do in communities. And so we're proud of the work and that it replicates or at least mirrors what communities in the country do related to ski resort development. I just have a couple slides I want to show, if you don't mind. We'll go to the, sorry.
Tell me what next.
Okay, I think you can go, so I think you can skip this one. We just talked about the environmental is just going to bore you to tears, so we'll continue. This was just in case I didn't know what Brian was going to present, so I was ready to talk about all the things. Let's go to the next then. Okay, so one of the things that was addressed briefly and we were prepared for, and one of the questions actually that was regarding what you're gonna see and when there's gonna be additional conversation. This is the suggested, and the reason why this isn't already agreed to or platted out is because somehow in the adopted ordinance, the sheet with the drawing like this is lost. So your ordinance is, no one's been able to find it, and I was involved in that, and so I don't even have it back from like 2007. So we need to make sure that we agree to, here's how you're going to see applications come in the future. Again, not just for us so we know what we're doing, but for you so you can say, oh, I get a bite of this apple this many times or during this piece of the process. So you can see that we're here on the left-hand side during the Cache County Master Plan CUP. If we were to get past that stage, what we've recommended and what we suggest, and I think the staff is somewhat in alignment with, is that we would come in when it comes to like a hotel, a commercial structure, a mixed use type of development, that we would create a design review package, and we would have standards for what does that mean, right? And so you would, and that would go to Planning Commission, and you would have an opportunity to look at said like hotel and the potentially some of the architecture in it and the things that interest you and that you're concerned about as a county. You would be able to have that review level potentially at the same time as a subdivision, or subdivision could happen first. But you've got those different routes. Now, if we were just doing a single family subdivision, that would come through the subdivision plan, and then it would go through the platting process, through the Planning Commission and Council, unless you change how you do that. We would just follow that traditional process, and then we would go and seek a building permit. One of the things that's different about this project than some of the zoning that you have in existence is that there aren't necessarily setbacks and requirements of height set forth. And so we would want to develop those as part of our design standards and guidelines and attach those to the subdivision approval. And that way, each time an application comes through, you have assurance that you know, and the person who buys the property knows what they're getting, not only for themselves, but for the adjacent properties. So this is, has been presented, but it's a work in progress, and we recommend that this type of document, something similar, get attached as well, which is one of the recommendations to you be made. But I thought we had this done, I thought I'd show it to you. So we're definitely looking forward to any additional questions and thoughts you might have, and working with staff and JUB on making sure we have all of the conditions of approval that you might want in place for you to take a review, and hopefully we get to a positive, actually an approval. You're not a recommending body in this, you get to make the decision. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll answer them, and otherwise.
Would you mind forwarding that presentation
to. Sure.
us?
Yep. You can, welcome to do that. Taking notes right now. So.
Thank you.
Brooke, maybe I'll ask a question, just kind of maybe tie in some of the stuff when it comes to how much approval or fingers the county would have in further development. The way the current county code is, when it talks about resort recreation, and it talks about submitting development plan applications afterward. My understanding is that, you know, more or less what we just talked to just now, and for the council as well, is that's when you get into these details with all these requirements talked about before. Is that your understanding as well? And then more or less, I mean, it's probably, I know it's kind of fuzzy based on the language in there and everything else, but that's how I'm envisioning it in my mind. Is that your understanding as well?
It is my understanding for certain structures. I always felt like straight up subdivisions for single family, that requires a development standard, but not a development plan where you're potentially looking at juxtaposition of, like, if you have two buildings and how far, like if you're building a taller lodge, how much you may want to have between it and the edge of the property boundary, or the next, like the ski run or something like that. So those are things that I think go into the design review, I was calling it, because I think the development plan applies to both.
How close are you on coming up with all those conditions?
I'm there.
I was just wondering if, with Connor, if we can have those before, 1 week before the meeting, maybe? The more time we have to review those might be good.
I think that's
if we're
great.
close to having them, if we're close to having them now, maybe we'll send them out in 2 weeks, Can we shoot for 2 weeks from now? I think this is a pretty big one, to give us some time.
Let's have some time.
Andrew, what are you thinking?
Thinking I have a conference, so let's say 3 weeks.
2.5. Do I hear 2.5?
Sure, yeah, we'll go with that.
You're on the guideline program, huh?
I guess, yes.
Well, thanks, Jay. You
Thank
guys
you.
put a lot into this. This is, yeah, it's good. Long process.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Keep rolling.
Let's keep going, huh? Okay, and item number 8, discussion of the pioneering agreement.
I take it, Matt.
What's that?
I was gonna ask Matt if he wants me to
Oh.
jump in, or if Matt wants to jump in, it doesn't matter to me.
Dan,
Go ahead, Andrew, I can be here for backup.
Okay. Well, last time when we were here, it was the end of the night, and everyone was tired, and I get that. So I guess the purpose of today would be more or less what questions you have. This was a request that's been made by prior council members, et cetera, to come up with a draft pioneering ordinance, essentially a way that the developer comes in, puts in some infrastructures, and it results in allowing additional adjacent properties to develop, whereas they otherwise would not have been able to. They kind of basically chip in and pay their portion back to that person who first put in the road, for example. Now, there's a lot of caveats with it. It's not a mandatory thing. The council would have to approve it in each circumstance, is the way it's currently drafted. That's more or less the theory and the concept that we put forward here. And so I'm at the point where, we're at the point where we need feedback on what you guys are looking for, or what you want to see going forward, if anything on this front, if that
Okay,
makes
I have
sense.
a question. So Connor and Angie, this is for you. So the people that were here tonight comes before you guys and wants to do an RU2. Do you have anything, or do you give them anything that talks about their responsibility on roads? Because I had a feeling that the lady who got up was throwing dust on the situation as far as, hey, we gotta build and pay for roads. I'm like, well, if you develop, then you should understand that.
Yeah, so typically what we'll do is what's called a pre-application meeting, where we sit down with them, and Matt usually attends that, or Jesse. And so,
I was subscribed to her before that, right? So she's leaning on the sympathy of the commissioners, basically, then.
she's gonna
It's
say.
not my
that-
determination to
they
say
told
yes
her-
or
They
no.
told her she was gonna have to build a road, and she realized that was gonna be really expensive, so it's gonna cost her 2 lots to pay for the road.
So there went the RU2 instead of the RU5.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I wanna be careful about, because we almost tip the hat that, and we need to be upfront about it, but at the same time, you know, they basically told us the reason those lots went up is they gotta cover the cost or make a profit. And I'm saying the developer makes the profit, the county is stuck with providing the services, and we gotta be careful on that. Because I don't know the county is in a position to provide services for 49 homes or whatever out there, and we'd be ready for that, so. Thus, that was part of the reason for the meeting last week. And all of these things I have to take into consideration. So I'm glad there's a pioneering agreement, because if we put that on them, then they have a course, if they do go through, that it can be equalized out, because she cast her neighbors under the bus, you know, like they didn't have to do it, so.
I guess a little bit more on that one, and then bringing us back to the pioneering one is.
Come on, pioneering, what do you mean bring it back?
They don't have very much frontage on a county road for that particular development. And so most of the road costs that they were talking about is to improve the private road to current standards, because they're at the maximum amount of homes that are allowed on a gravel private road. They would have to pave the private road. So most of the things that they were talking about is to improve their own private road to facilitate more homes, not the county road. So that they would have had very little to hardly any impacts or improvements to the county road. Just because, and then this is, again, a different discussion, is that because our minor private road is so
narrow. I mean, most of our roads, unless you're going to a commercial use or, you know, lots and lots of homes, but when you have that situation up there where you have multiple accesses to one, it gets very hard. And so we would have a very hard time making them improve anything that was outside of the frontage of what they were developing. Probably nearly impossible. So,
Matt, did we throw away the 500-foot rule of a private road?
it's hard because we have so many of them that it's hard to enforce that portion of it, saying that you can't have a private road more than 500 feet. It's still in there though. So you're correct, the code says that, but pretty much what you're doing is giving people a design exception to every one of those, because 500 feet in the county, as you guys know, based on our 300-foot give them a notice letter, 500 feet in the county is not very far, so.
Very far.
Well, that's what I'm thinking with this land. If you go 500 feet of a private road.
So that's another good example, and one of these other code things that we should
Oh,
talk
it's
about
not.
is they already have a private road that's a mile long. So how do you all of a sudden come in and say, no, you can't have it, right? It's already there. All we can do is try to get them to improve that so that we're not creating dust, we're not creating pollution, we're trying to, you know, but that would be 42 garbage cans on the side of the county road too.
It's a long ways to bring them down there.
So now you're trying to find ways of how do we get waste management to go up this private road.
Well, I think
Amazon and all these other things, so.
steep slopes too would fall into that
So, I
property.
mean, private roads create their own issues, but yeah, it hasn't been feasible for us to restrict most private roads to 500 feet. 99% of them are more than that, just due to the terrain and the amount of land they're developing.
From your standpoint, not to change the subject, but can you maybe incorporate pioneering into this deal out in Hiram, if that comes back? So my understanding is the people that have put the road in, the asphalt road all the way, is gonna have to be widened, possibly some areas improved.
Yes. And we wouldn't put that under the pioneering agreement.
That road wouldn't.
No, but just kind of looking through what we have proposed for the pioneering agreement, I think it would be beneficial for you guys to look at it like a rezone. So we would someone would propose that they want to enter a pioneering agreement, and then we would have to have a public hearing and a public meeting. We would have to send out notices, similar to a rezone. That would be heard here at the Planning Commission, and then there would be some kind of a recommendation forwarded on to the council for final approval. And so at that point, you could say, I don't think those lots and I don't think those property owners are receiving a real benefit. And then you could look at other ones and say, yeah, where you're actually pioneering a road, those people on this other side are getting a free ride. So there's probably going to be, if you have to improve a couple of feet of asphalt along your property, we probably wouldn't ever recommend that for approval of a pioneering agreement. We're going to be looking at new roads, substantial improvements where they're actually adding value to the adjacent or properties that had bought that, so that when they come in to develop, they don't, you know, it's a way. Logan has the same thing where Logan pays into that. So Logan's paying half of a road, and then when those developments come back in, Logan can charge impact fees for the portion they paid. We're just kind of removing the county out of that, saying, hey, we're going to approve it and we're going to okay it. But at the end of the day, this pioneering agreement is between the developer and the landowners, and we don't even get involved in that exchange of money.
So that may be.
I would just clarify one thing on that, like as far as the mechanics of the pioneering agreement between the county and the developer, right? And it would benefit properties would be noticed and all that, but to Matt's point, yes, it's essentially going to be between the developer and those parties that would be affected would be the developer and the neighboring landowners, right? But the county does have a part to play in this, and that we would be basically collecting the obligation.
Correct. But we also, to me, there's impact. If you talk about what Brady's talking about, the subdivision up there, that road isn't the width that it needs to be to accommodate those houses. So to get the width, now we're gonna encumber some ground, but we're
And if they came in, Nolan, and said, hey, I want to build 42, it would probably be pretty easy for the county to address some impacts to 42 new lots. But if they came in and did 3, kind of hard, then they do 3 more, kind of hard, you know, so these small incremental things get very hard for us to put an impact on. I mean, that's the good thing about Hiram is they're coming in saying, hey, we want 27. That's pretty easy for us to allocate some kind of impacts to and kind of, you know, get impacts outside of their specific development as far as road improvements and those types of things. But small 1 lot, 2 lot, 3 lots, it gets very hard for us to say, your fair share of the road improvements is 3%, so, you know, give us, you know, $2,000, and then what does the county do? The road still doesn't meet standards, so part of that becomes a no. If they got rezoned and wanted 42 lots up there, staff might recommend no, because we can't provide the essential services and the roads don't meet standards, so.
I'm trying to fast forward a little bit in doing a pioneering agreement. The benefited property owners are probably gonna protest every one of these, right? Because it encumbers them to pay some money in the future for 10 years.
So that, again, that would be that public hearing that would be required to be had, and you could hear their arguments for or against, and you might be persuaded to not approve it, you might be persuaded to approve it.
Could you tell me what the timeline would be, where this would enter in? Is it pre zone change, pre subdivision, or post? I wonder where this falls in the.
You ask a good question, and one that I've kind of tried to find when that might be the best time, so that we could make sure that it's very specific of at what point in this process do they need to come. But it says, an applicant may request that the county council consider entering into a pioneering agreement regarding the road improvements. The county council may allow the applicant to construct. It says, apply for any pioneering agreement authorized by this section. Department in conjunction with the proposed development or other land use applications.
Correct.
Okay. So it doesn't really say when, it just says that they need to do it with say it at the time of a subdivision, that they can't just come in willy-nilly and apply for a pioneering agreement standalone. It needs to come with some other type of development or land use action.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, but it's not super specific.
So it'd be what?
It's currently phrased in the draft ordinance right now is yes, has to be in conjunction with some other type of application.
Okay.
So let's say the developer says, okay, I'll build the road. It costs you, let's say, $100,000 to keep it nice and neat. But he's put $100,000 in that road, and he's gonna want some money above and beyond that $100,000 to recoup as an investment. So who determines the value of the road to the person who's going to be building the new house?
So a good example, if we try to make that as cut and dry as we can, is let's say this $100,000 improvements is just across 1 lot. So, and that's what it cost him. We would say probably the person adjacent to that should pay $50,000. Because
if that person decides to develop later on.
right, so if they built this, you know, and it was split equally half and half, and the developer paid for the whole 100,000, and his lot was on this side, and the guy adjacent to him, I mean, you would probably come to the conclusion that this guy is a beneficiary of half that road, and so his cost to pay back at some point would be, you know, $50,000.
I asked the question because I've developed 2 different buildings.
Right.
Both times in specific reasons, I've asked the gas company to extend the line.
Right.
So they didn't have to, they will not do it. They will not do it because they're making an investment that they don't know when they're gonna get it back and will it have any return. And that's one of the things I think we'll face with this.
Yeah, so right now, if that same thing came back and that developer built that road there at his dime, there is no way for him to get any type of payback. But yet that property on the other side, he comes in for development or a subdivision, And it's like, oh, well, you don't have any road improvements, they're already done, they already meet our standards, so, you know, easy ride through. And so this was requested by developers for that case, saying, hey, I'm putting this in, and now my neighbors are, you know, have little, you know, they're getting benefit to their property, their land values probably just went up, and I had to
But what I'm
all the
saying,
money up.
what I'm saying too is, he's put $100,000 there, and it took 10 years before he started to get any money back. He's going to expect 100,000 plus interest to get that back.
Yes.
He's not gonna develop.
That's not the way this is drafted.
Can't do it.
Well, but he's not gonna develop it if he doesn't know he's gonna get some income back out of developing that road. Maybe I'll look at that.
That's what it's called a make.
Yeah, his income will be, he gets to build that house at the end of the road he wants to build today. That's the
And
developer's
there's a
benefit.
potential for a payoff.
Or
down
maybe
the-
10
down the
homes,
road
right?
to
Maybe
recoup
10.
some of that cost.
Because he's probably not gonna build a long road if there's only one home in it. But if he's really doing a development, he needs a half a mile of road.
If he can see a return, I think he'll do it.
Yeah, because that's my question. If you've got 3 or 4 landowners on either side of that road, right? Say we got a half mile of 2-track road, and at the end is this nice piece that he can put 10 homes on.
Yep.
If all those landowners come to the public hearing and say, we don't want any part of a pioneering agreement, right, we're not planning on developing, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't, then we have to, or the county council has to decipher, are they telling us the truth, or are they gonna come in next month, as soon as the road's done, and request a,
Yep.
or are they gonna wait the 10 years where they don't have to pay anything back anyways?
Yep, that would be the choices.
Yeah.
Is the,
But at the end of the day, I just don't know how somebody can, whether we're in the public hearing we okay it, or even if we don't okay it, if there's fine print that says, well, if you still do something in 10 years, it's not fair to the person that paid the investment for the whole thing to not recoup some of their expense. Because if he hadn't have done it, and the other party does, they would have had to pay 100% of it.
Yeah, and right now, as the county code stands, you go do these, you build these roads outside and expand county services to areas where there isn't a road. It's just a cost of doing business. This would allow some of that to come back, and if we don't think that that's something that we're willing to entertain, then this pioneering agreement just doesn't go anywhere.
How do you feel about it?
Well, so we saw that one in Clarkston last year. It was 500 feet from Clarkston city boundaries. And, you know, that guy, and there were 2 lots on the other side, and they came in and they said, well, if he paves the road, then I'm gonna build on that. And that would have helped, I don't remember his name, but that would have helped him out. So it would have been more
If they were willing to
fair.
enter in the agreement, they still may not.
Yeah.
so the
But-
county,
But that would have been more fair, so I'd like it.
Well, every time something surfaces, whether it be west of Smithfield, I mean, people are just waiting for one person to bust it in some of these areas so that they could get going. And I think it's the only fair way to.
I like this idea, and I think there'll be a few places where landowners say, yeah, we're willing to. But I wish that we could do it similar to how Logan does. I know the county doesn't have the budget.
It'd be nice if the county did have the
Yeah,
budget.
if we had that, it'd be perfect, because then you guys can just, all right, require the impact fee, and whether they wanted to or not, as soon as they do something, you know,
Yeah.
it wouldn't matter if they waited the 10 years.
Logan's never expires.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to charge current value.
Yep.
So in this one.
It goes
you-
up.
You put it in 10 years down the road, you might be getting a discount because asphalt's twice as much.
Oh, big time.
Charges current prices, and they will exact that for you as part of your development, so.
I wish we could do that, but this is the first step to maybe getting there someday.
I mean, I feel like it discourages some of that development, because then they're gonna say, oh, it's not free, as soon as they get the first house.
so as a county, they draft and enforce the agreement, are you gonna have a fee associated with this to help cover the county costs?
That would be another thing, is some kind of a fee or an application fee for this.
For maintenance
To cover the
management.
cost
Well,
over the 10 years.
Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, when I look at the very bottom of this one, and it says, non-liability of county, the county shall, in all cases, be immune and not liable for any payments to the developer if the pioneering agreement is determined to be unenforceable. Agreements under this section shall not confer a benefit upon any third party and shall be in a form approved by the county council. The responsibility for payment of the required improvements or facilities shall rest entirely with the developer. The county shall not be responsible for collection of amounts from third parties. So the way I read it is, hey, we're gonna come up with the agreement and it's something that's approved by the county. It's the developer's responsibility to pay for all those upfront costs.
Yeah,
But
those
the county
upfront
shall not be responsible to collect anything from the third party.
But I still think we, just thinking back, not using an example, but at the same time, the Nixon deal is kind of an example of multiple agreements over numerous years that's now kind of in a bag mixed around. So if I understand this correctly, just hear me out. If I understand it correctly, I build a house at the end of that mile road and I've got 4 neighbors down the way. Up front, I pay 100% of them costs. But if in the next 10 years, any or all of my neighbors build, they will proportionately share the cost. But if the county isn't able to say and ask the end guy, or at least say, did you get your pioneering? And we'll hold the permit on this guy until that's been done, what good are we doing in even putting this together?
Good point. I think there needs to be some way for the county to hold up their permits.
To mitigate the risk of the developer.
And it's gotta be paid up front. It can't be after it's done. If you don't pay, if the developer don't sign off or attest that you paid your share of it, you're on hold.
Well, the other thing we gotta consider is if, on your example, now I run power clear to the end, the guy doesn't develop, but he hooks on the power, we need to consider utility faction in this pioneering, because he just got a free power dump.
It would be any cost associated with development.
So right now, Nolan, we don't consider those types of utilities because we don't provide them. What we would try to incorporate in here if necessary would be, let's say that in 5 years from now, the county has like curb and gutter standards and storm drain, and now there's piping involved in that, or those utilities that were county owned, county maintained, then we could probably enforce a pioneering agreement on some of those types of utilities. But where we don't manage or have any jurisdiction or anything, we couldn't be putting restrictions on power and those other utilities that are not owned or operated by the county.
Rocky Mountain Power has those agreements.
They have a 7-year, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, to help cost share on
If
someone comes in.
If you upgrade big enough to other people can hook and they hook onto that within 7 years, you get a portion back. But they're big enough, right? They hold all the money, so they are the controller. It makes
And they're pretty good at
sense.
watching that, it's just,
Yeah.
I was wondering how we would tie that together if not.
So the money collection is of a concern, right? How do we, again, going back to Logan is not the best example, but Logan paid into that. So now Logan is a part owner kind of those improvements, and so that's a direct thing. Hey, you want a permit? You need to pay us. In this case, we're saying, hey, you want a permit and you need to pay us, and then we're gonna give this money to the developer. It creates another issue of accounting and stuff that we need to vet probably a little bit more and figure out how that would work. But as it's currently written, the way I read it, unless Andrew says different, is, hey, we're gonna put this agreement out there, but at the end of the day.
Well, I think there's to be a fee associated with this too, so that the
Yes,
county
I
doesn't
would-
shouldering all the cost.
Yes, I'm gonna make note of that, is how much time and effort does it take?
Payment in
Yes.
lieu, like somebody who else is gonna be impacted. For a while, we had the payment in lieu that they could put that in. How does that affect this?
That was if they didn't develop it.
The fee in lieu of, Nolan, would probably be a little different, because in this case, you would be putting those improvements in, but you bring up another good case is if, say it's gravel, and there's homes on the gravel portion, and now this guy's coming from the end of the gravel and pushing the gravel road another mile, and that might be a fee in lieu of case. So, yeah, that's something we probably need to vet as well, is how could this incorporate into these? Clarkston's a good example of some of these dirt roads that have a house already on them, and now you wanted to take that even further down the road. But I think the key thing to this is we have the ability to say, we feel like this fits the pioneering agreement, and it doesn't fit. So when they come into an application, I think it all starts here of, does this fit what the intent was? Is there truly a benefit to the neighboring parcels? And if we all say, hey, no, we're voting no against the pioneering agreement for this developer, then that would kind of like a rezone, then it would go to the council, and the council could say, hey, based on planning commission's recommendations or based on these factors, we're also saying this project does not warrant a pioneering type agreement. So I think you have some flexibility in there where this is not a you have to approve it type thing. It's still at our discretion.
This whole thing is entirely discretionary, so it's not.
Hey, but we need to think about it though one step further. It's probably not gonna be the developer that's gonna be there 10 years from now. The developer is gonna know his cost of what it costs, so we're probably gonna wanna record that. But the transaction is gonna be to who is actually living. Because if the developer, he's gonna account for his costs when he sells the lot. He's not gonna take a loss.
That could be, I've thought about that too, is now did this guy that bought that land, did he inherit some other type of value, right? Similar thing, the developer does all this development, he sells 2 or 3 lots and then leaves. Do each one of those landowners get a portion of that back?
I think you're gonna have to, because they're in their lot price. The developer ain't gonna take a loss up front. He ain't gonna sell the lots for less than they cost him to put them in.
So now does this property owner have to try to collect from this guy across the street and this guy collect across the street?
Sounds like a good
Well,
thing for an attorney
but
to
why
make
are
some
we
money
gonna
off
turn
of.
around and pay a developer that's already made his money and now he's just getting a royalty?
Right. There's a lot of these what-ifs that get very hard in the code, but all the things you guys are bringing up are the things that we want to hear back and try to either solve them now or, just say, hey, I don't think we're ready for a pioneering agreement. And
You might make us developers if we're gonna get paid profit and then make a royalty. We might start a business.
If you put those improvements in, you're losing money from day one, because as inflation goes up, what we are gonna sign on the paper saying what your payback is losing money every day.
Really?
So the way the agreement was worked, like they said, if this agreement is entered into, it's between the county and the developer, right? And so that's who would be, the agreement would be with, because there's the draft ordinance and a separate agreement, actual contract would be entered into, it would be up for review and approval by the council, right? And then as part of the process, if there's a determination that there's a benefited parcel here, there's that notice that's recorded against the property. It's not a lien, but puts any other future property owners on notice that if you develop this parcel, it's subject to this agreement. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but just.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, but I still, at the end of the day, if you develop the lot and then I come pay you, and I'm paying you market value today based off of the improvements and everything, I don't feel it's right that you get recomp for that. I should, because I paid extra for my lot, but it's only my opinion.
Like I said, I don't care either way, right? I'm just presenting what a draft is. You're the decision makers on what you want to see or not see or whatever. So.
I agree with you totally, Brady. I mean, once the developer's paid, then anything that comes back from that should compensate the person who paid off the developer. The developer's done. I mean, how many subdivisions, especially the ones that are HOAs, first thing that happens, the road's bad. Then they come to the county and say, take this frickin' road because it's not good anymore. Well, the developer's gone and he's not there to help.
But I think, like Matt said, everyone's gonna be so different. It could be the developer, right, it's a 2-lot subdivision. He builds on one and sells the other lot. So he's still got an agreement. He still bore some of that cost. I think to get into this level and say, well, 3 sales later over 10 years, it's a third
agreement's not
homeowner.
gonna be valid, because the agreement we have is
Yeah,
between the
it's
county and the developer.
it would be such a legal nightmare. So I think we're gonna have, there'll be a lot of them that I think we say that doesn't make sense, just put it in, and if you can't make the money on the 2 lots, then don't do it.
I hope the person buying the lot knows that there's that agreement, so they can go to the developer and say, I need a discount because you're gonna be reimbursed if this happens over 10 years, maybe they can enter that agreement in.
Yeah, that'd be a separate agreement outside the county.
Exactly, but I'm saying, there's just really no fair way to make it. Or the developer
Yeah,
doesn't.
it seems like a legal nightmare for the homeowners.
And the way it is,
It's complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be very complicated, and then there's probably some that are very straightforward, that it's easy to split the cost.
It's nice, it's flexible.
Yes, so, again, if we find some of these, it's like, hey, this, we just don't agree with this one, or, hey, we feel like this is a good one. I think that's the discretion of the planning commission. It's gonna put a lot of burden, and so there should be fees, cause the engineering's gonna have to go in and figure out the costs, figure out the cost sharing, figure out the square footage, and along with that application, that planning commission time, what those costs and what those paybacks would be already set. They would be based on a cost estimate, right? Cause he's not gonna go build it. You know, he's gonna wanna know, hey, can I move forward with this pioneering agreement? But, so we would have to put together some costs for that estimate. You're gonna have to go a little deeper with engineering at the subdivision time. So there is some work associated with the county to make sure that that payback is fair and equitable, and that the contractor's not, you know, making money by saying it's gonna cost me $1 million when it, and then at the end of the day, it cost him a couple $100,000, and now he's charging all these guys basically royalties to come in on his road, so.
Matt, do we know, have we looked at all or asked if other counties are doing this and how they're doing it?
So there is cities that do it. Again, Logan, I hate to keep bringing Logan up, but they kind of have their method to do it, right? They have funding where they can go pay that other share to put those improvements in. A lot of this ordinance was taken from a city in Utah, so this is mimicked after some of the other ones we've seen.
correct.
Say, somewhere in Rich County, they probably don't have anything. I haven't checked with Box Elder, but they probably don't have anything either. Kind of like, you want to build, go for it, and you bear the burden, so.
And so a lot of this was, I took from a couple different codes that I saw in place from other cities and municipalities in Utah, and tried to create something that I thought would make sense for the county, right, for presentation purposes. So a lot of this, so it is being done in other areas within the state, to answer your question.
I'm glad we're seeing it. It's a good start, for sure.
Yeah, and if that was my assignment, is to go find out if there's any other counties that have this, great. It might take a while, cause some of those counties only work a couple of days a week, but.
The only reason I was even asking is personally, I think this document is awesome. I think it's great. I'm fine with it. But my only concern there is if the pioneering agreement is entered into, it only makes sense that whoever is sitting on that property at the time, whoever paid each time, it don't matter if the home sold 2 times, generally people aren't gonna take a loss on their resale. And so everybody's been comped ahead of time except for the guy there now. And I don't know.
What happens if the developer is gone and dead, right? Or, you know, so you run into these other problems as 9 years down the road, this guy comes in, he's gotta pay, and now no one can find, it was an LLC and they don't no longer exist. And I mean, there's issues with trying to find that person to pay back as well. We run into that same kind of issue with the fee in lieu of. I mean,
Let's say the way there's the draft agreement that's in place right now, the agreement that would be entered into, again, this would be up to the council because they're gonna see the actual agreement as well. The current draft we have is like, hey, it's non-assignable without the written consent of both parties. So if you're in that situation where developer does this, you have to all go through all this process, something happens to the developer or whatever, and say they die or whatnot, ultimately the contract's gonna go away, so then all the benefited properties can just go do what they want, and they're not gonna have to pay any of this.
So the agreement would be between the developer and the county.
Correct.
The county signs the agreement that the developer will pay. If we're getting to that level, why could, I know that nobody needs another job, but couldn't you build a fee into the agreement and the county take the fee to manage the money in the agreement? Because the county has the resources to, as it comes before for any permits or any new development, the county's already gonna have the resources to see, because it'll come right through the office, they'll see the agreement, and they can say, oh, yeah, this area, there's a pioneering agreement in force, so to get it's just part of your checklist, because it's here, it's added to, you've gotta pay it before they can collect it, and have it built in, rather than that poor homeowner or whoever's there with that property trying to get it collected, because they don't have the resources to do that.
So ultimately, the way this would work, I don't know if this will help answer that question. So if this agreement is entered into, there's gonna be a notice on any of the benefited parcels, right? And so then the county, or some of the county's obligations would be that if that benefited property owner comes in, wants to develop, we just basically say, hey, we're gonna do our best efforts to collect this, whatever the proportion is, prior to approving their subdivision or whatever they wanna do to build on, right? So then at that point, then we then pass on to the developer. Now, if you wanna build any certain type of fees or whatever to do that, I'm certain that's something we can look at. I don't know the answers to that. Maybe talk about putting that into the fee schedule, whatever the case may be, but.
Well, rather than just being a drain on county resources, because you're gonna be administering anyway, just build the fee into it.
Essentially something we can look into. I'm happy to have those conversations.
Could you also look at if when the developer sells the property, a parcel, that now that agreement goes to that person that's bought the property, that portion of the payment goes to them instead of to the developer at that point, it's transferable to the homeowner that's building on that lot that got developed. So if someone comes up and builds another house on that road, would that go to that person that the developer sold that lot to?
The tricky thing would be, it could be 20 lots that
Yeah.
first developer did. And so now do you split that payment into 20 every time?
Well,
It could get complicated.
Well, the
Something to
developer
look into
shouldn't
that,
get
but when it comes, because like, so ultimately this comes down to, hey, county's providing a mechanism where the county can enter into an agreement with the developer for a pioneering agreement. Now that contract is between the county and the developer. When it starts getting, I don't say, is the parties to that contract of the county and the developer. Now, if you try to push that down to whoever's buying the lots the developer's selling to, I don't know how that works. I can look into that if you want, but conception in my mind right now, I'm just not seeing how that makes sense, but I'm happy to verify that.
But you would do that initially when you create that first contract, that first pioneering agreement, it would be in there.
Because all we're doing is making the developer more money, right?
I'm honestly not in favor of it, though, if we're gonna leave the developer at the head. Because how many developers have still got the piece after 10 years? Maybe that parcel in Hiram. Anyhow, I won't say no more, but I'm just not in favor of making the developer more profitable, because he's not gonna sell his lots without he's gonna know his costs, and he's gonna factor it into his sale.
If we do want to make it as part of the contract, like you're saying, Val J, about passing it on, I would certainly think that, and as I'm talking through it now, that could be a possibility. I mean, if that's something that you want to.
It just goes with the parcel numbers somehow.
Yeah.
So I guess just to make sure I'm taking away some points here, Kurt, you would like to see us make sure we have a fee so that we're covering county staff and any notices and those types of things. So some kind of a fee that's reasonable to even ask the question, correct?
Right.
Well, Jay, maybe what you're talking about is maybe the county has more involvement in collecting these funds and then distributing them to whoever that developer or that first person was. Is that?
Yeah,
correct?
and build the cost of that into the fee.
I'd say at that point.
And then the other one I'm hearing is maybe potentially that those people that are liable for that payback, it's tied to whatever potentially a law. So in an easy case, it's this guy develops on this side and this guy's the benefited guy. That if this guy comes in, he's paying whoever owns the lot at the time of that payback.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Tied to the parcel seems the easiest way to do that.
I like that.
I don't, that's the only fair way.
It is.
And I mean, the sale of that and all that other stuff could be figured into his cost of whatever.
Yes.
Knowing that, you know, maybe in 10 years he'll get some money and maybe in 10 years he won't.
The developer's still gonna get all his money back, but as a selling point on those lots, he can say, if anyone on this road builds in the next 10 years, you're gonna get a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys had to pay for the road.
Because you had to pay for it,
Yeah.
for the lot.
That's
so
fine too.
That seems.
That's great.
That seems reasonable, that's
I think the parcel
upfront.
number seems a good way to do it.
Okay. Any other takeaways that we should look at?
There's a right-of-way area.
No, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't see this being, if someone comes in and does a subdivision, we don't even consider it, right? Because they're gonna sell these lots and they're gonna pay for it. It's more of where you're building a road that's, and you only own half of that road, then it's the people on the other half.
That flag can be raised.
Okay,
Good work.
thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, I guess one last question for you though. Just, and this is kind of simple, I mean, how would you allocate it, or would you take like okay, so say we got a mile road and we've got two parcels on each side of it, so there'd be 2 parcels on this side, 2 on this side. Would you then split it? Would it be each one would be 20% if they all did? Or would it be based off the footage total cost? How do you guys can work that out?
Yeah, that's something that for every different design and who's benefiting and how they're benefiting, that would probably go into what we would come in and recommend that each one of those adjacent landowners would have to pay back. Again, the easy case is 50-50, right? Now you have someone that's at the very end of that and you have lots all the way down the side. It probably wouldn't be that the guy at the very end didn't have, he got a free ride. He's still benefiting that, so now you're taking a proportion instead of maybe frontage, you're looking at, okay, each one of these people has, some type of proportion, and each one, even if their frontage is very small, they're still receiving some benefit from that, and try to figure out some equal share so that everyone was treated fairly. It could be frontage width, it could be access, it could be lots of different things, but
And that'll all be drafted up in the agreement.
that would all be part of what came to the planning commission right up front.
The county engineer has a lot of discretion in figuring all that out as well, so.
Good thoughts.
Looks good.
Okay. Moving along to item number 9. In Cache County Code, commercial lot coverage.
Yeah, so at our last planning commission meeting, Nate asked for us to expand out the 1710-040 development standards. So this is what that table looks like right now. A particular concern in this case was maximum lot coverage in the commercial zone. Nate wanted to bump it up to match the industrial zone, so 80%. So the revised code would essentially look like this. And today we're just kind of formally introducing that to the planning commission to get that discussion going. I guess, do you guys have any particular direction you want us to look in? Do you want us to address some concerns that I have in drafting this? Where do you guys want to start?
I think we go back to the meeting we had just last week when the Bear River Health Department.
We got some huge issues.
Yeah, the Bear River
Huge.
Health Department said how big for a subdivision?
Acre and a half.
It was acre and 3/4, wasn't it? Acre and 3/4.
We gotta get that adjusted immediately.
We can't do half acre.
That's a whole nother.
That's ridiculous.
But then he came back afterwards and
Yeah,
he said,
that's a different
well, it
kind.
depends on the soil.
Yeah.
So he couched his comment, his first one,
We still need to be cognizant of figuring
Yeah.
that out because.
for sure.
Do you want us to bring that to the next one?
So that's 2 lines above.
But
it.
Val,
Yeah, those
we've been
half-
screwed
I think we
so
need to
bad
bring it
out there
before the
in
next one
Smithfield.
and address it.
They come in and they do this, and then they make half acres,
So
and then they
this
turn
one,
around and develop it
I'll
again.
give some
Yeah, give us
some backstory on where my request on this came from. So before I was on the planning commission, I came in to do a project out in Petersburg, right, storage units. And I asked him, I said, why is the lot dent or coverage different on those? And he said it was probably because someone came in with a request to adjust the industrial one up and they never looked at the commercial one at the time, because how many commercial projects or industrial do we have in the county?
Pretty few.
Not very many, right? So it hadn't been looked at in a long time. So he said, well, we'll get it on one of the next planning commission meetings and we'll look at adjusting that. Well, that didn't happen. And then I talked with Stephen about it. It still didn't happen. And now we've had another project come in. So Chris Chambers, right, he asked the same question. And the biggest difference is it means, like on his project or mine, you're either gonna leave all the driveways gravel to meet that 50%, or you're gonna asphalt them and have a better looking place, is the real difference in that. Most cities are either 85 or 90% lot coverage. And so to me, it just didn't make sense in commercial settings to only have 50% lot coverage. That and industrial should probably be the same. They're similar type operations. You know, if we got 50% and we're gonna have 50% open space or landscaping, right, it really doesn't make sense in a commercial setting. So that's the reason I asked it to be brought on there, so that we're
What if we
consistent.
made it so that asphalt roads don't count as part of your
Yeah.
50?
You could do that and adjust other areas of the code, so that's not impermeable surfaces.
Because it's not structures. That doesn't, right now, we count asphalt on a, that's
Yeah.
not right.
So that was the other place to address it, but this seemed like the easier place instead of changing all the other stuff.
That's a fairly easy change.
I would rather see us leave the structures at 50 and allow asphalt as extra. But
Yeah, I kind of agree with that to some extent. I know Nate says you're just gonna pave your driveways. It's kind of like today with that rezone. Sure, they came in with 20, but they could theoretically go up to 49. In terms of impact, there's only 5 differences between commercial and industrial. There's 11 differences between industrial and commercial that you can do in the commercial zone. So my fear with those, it's commercial businesses, sporting facilities, bed and breakfast. My concern is they would just keep it as, let's say, gravel roads, but then add 40 different more rooms onto it. So the concern I'd have in general is just impact, right? So if we want to do just structures, I think that's a pretty good way to approach it personally.
But the other ones you could still address in the conditional use permit. All the other concerns you have could still be addressed in the conditional use permit.
Right.
So you could still address those.
Would that impact the rezone process at all? Because I feel industrial, when you guys look at industrial,
it's either that or not, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
You
very
don't have no control.
heavy hitting one. Commercial, I feel, is, I don't want to say treated loosely or lightly or lighter, but I feel industrial, when that rezone kind of comes in, it's kind of like, oh, hey, this is something big. So in that case, in terms of impact, are you comfortable with that? I guess in the grand scheme of things, almost having commercial industrial be able to be played around with a little bit? Because in my time in planning and zoning, I've been here for 2.5 years. I have seen some extremely impressive lawyering where they can make a definition fit one thing or another. People play the game, and so the concern I'd have with bringing commercial up to 80% and making that impact on par with industrial is the fact that they could just lawyer it. They could say, oh, hey, we're doing this, it doesn't fit this. Industrial rezone is probably not going to happen. Commercial rezone might happen. So they shoot for commercial instead. So that's just kind of the fear I have there. I mean, you guys are the deciding body, so it just kind of comes up to you.
I'm just thinking in practice, Highway 30 gets done and out on 3200 West, Maverick decides, oh, we've got a big highway now, we're gonna throw a Maverick out there. You take a look at every Maverick station, they're a lot bigger than 50%, right?
Yep.
Let's say they're 90, and so, you know, kind of that application of how are we going to use,
Do you think 10th West, the 10th West Maverick right now, are you thinking structures on that one or over?
If you're talking structure and hard surfaces?
Well, asphalt, no
Yeah.
question. But I'd be in favor of not counting asphalt as structures. That's not right.
I think the definition calls out impervious surfaces,
Yeah.
so, if
That's
we
where asphalt
we could
is,
make this fairly simple tweak, and it would kind of cover all that, but if we wanted to kind of differentiate between structures and non-impervious surfaces, then we possibly have to work with some definitions as well, so, to get that cleared up, to make that demarcation.
Matt's coming up with some comments.
I guess I wanted to maybe help vet the asphalt versus gravel part. And maybe Brady, your questions, but if Nate volunteered his project for.
Bring it up. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's storage sheds, right?
Yeah.
I think asphalt in storage sheds is a lot cleaner than a whole bunch of gravel for dust and erosion. So I guess from an engineering stormwater type perspective, I would count asphalt as impervious, no questions, right? But gravel would be the same thing. You've changed that part. So if you had a 5 acre commercial spot and you just wanted to fill it all with gravel, I guess from an engineering standpoint, I have a hard time saying that wasn't lot coverage. So I would, like Nate's suggestion is we just up the percentage that you can and not try to distinguish between asphalt and buildings, because it's very hard to have parking and stormwater and everything with, 90% building coverage, right? So I would hate to see someone trying to play the game saying, oh, I'm gonna leave a whole bunch of this gravel because that doesn't count as lot coverage, where you're changing it from an agricultural and you're covering it, you're still getting stormwater runoff after a while. Gravel's maybe impermeates a little bit more, but.
It's like 5% different, right, on your stormwater?
It's not, and a lot of times, if you're a good engineer, you're just gonna count them the same, because after a while, it's hard and packed, and so I think we're splitting hairs at that point of a storage shed unit between whether the gravel between the storage sheds is, lot coverage or not lot coverage, so.
But Matt, so if you put though, what impact is this gonna have? In storage units, you're probably not gonna have every tenant there at the same time. But we take industrial, so we allow them 80%, and we look at the flour mill out there. I live right next to it. That thing has been the biggest frickin' disaster with all their people parking everywhere but on their lot. I mean, they're up and down the roads. Semis are up and down the roads. That's not good. And then that soccer field that we put in Hyde Park. There was supposed to be fencing along the north side. Well, they didn't do it. And you go there anytime there's people there, and that road is just, it's just an accident waiting to happen.
Mr. Chair, you got to vote to extend the meeting.
Yeah, 5-minute break.
So anyhow, that's a couple examples that I was thinking of in my mind, that if we allow them to up the structures, then how do you count for parking?
We need to extend this, so do we have a motion to
I'll
extend the
make a
meeting?
motion for a 5-minute break and extend to 8:30.
All in favor?
Optimistically.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
5-minute
So,
break.
the one that you're talking about with the soccer fields,
Yeah,
how does,
that's
The lot-
different.
Lot coverage wouldn't account on that one.
That wouldn't have, it wouldn't have helped us.
help lot
Yeah.
coverage, right?
Well, and I think from an engineering standpoint, like you said, it's easier to manage it if it's 80% and not 50%.
Is that
but we
soccer
won't-
field's in Hyde Park though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's
No,
in
it's
the county.
county.
Oh, it's
He-
county.
he-
It's
he
on the
had to
west
come-
side there by
he
the
had to come
mortuary.
through here for,
Oh, Hyde Park's the other side of the road.
Setback is the issue
yeah, on the,
that's a major issue. I missed that meeting and I really,
Yeah, we wouldn't have changed that.
I would not have voted for that one. That's a mess.
They got no room.
yeah.
No room, so now that, all that.
And we're still
coverage.
we're dang glad they're there. But
But it could have been done better, maybe.
What if they came in and said, oh, we don't wanna put asphalt in all this, cause that's gonna count against our lot coverage, and now they, all that's gravel. So that's the thing is, I think where the code has tried to distinguish between lot coverages and impervious, again, back to me. If he does gravel, he's fine, if he does pavement, he's in violation.
But how does solid surface affect stormwater? Do you have to have greater retention ponds?
You just have bigger ponds. But it's not a huge difference between the gravel.
Yeah, but we want him to have asphalt.
We do.
Yeah.
Because we want runoff. We want to fill the Great Salt Lake. We got to
We
run it
can't
off.
It can't run off. We still have to hold it on our property.
No, we got to change that.
All right, now cut a hole in the end.
Think of like Odell, the egg
Yeah.
holes, right? Is all the gravel between all their buildings lot coverage or non-lot coverage?
Well-
In my mind, I would say that counts as lot coverage.
Yeah.
You didn't leave like some wetlands.
But yeah.
You didn't leave some grass or some landscaping. You just turned it to gravel.
To me, the lot coverage should be everything that's not the landscaping portion or the native, yeah. That's where the 80%.
Well, I'm on board with you to increase it. If there's any confusion.
And non-impervious, yeah. And
Guys,
then
you got a
can
gag for me?
Yeah, you can just say, any part that's developed and not, the landscaping, some of those come out or the native, is you gotta be your 20%. To me, that seemed to make more sense too.
How come you said 8:30? Am I gonna stay that long?
Yeah, I wondered about that.
By that clock.
Yeah.
We're here for a while.
I think the next few will go pretty quick.
Yeah, we can get it through the next ones quickly.
We gotta wait for them, or can we start?
Because if I got home before 8:15, I felt guilty about telling the second counselor I couldn't come in to meet with him. We had to get past 8:15.
Drive slow.
So you hit
Go up
traffic.
through Smithfield on your way home.
I also told him I was now blocking his number.
It's not gonna stop him.
I can avoid. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at avoiding him. Still working?
Yeah, the audio cut out during the water meeting.
So no more batteries on their microphones?
No.
Apparently not. IT's going all out.
Yeah, so there's still battery packs on these ones, but yeah, these are hardwired in. So.
Wow.
And I think they added in some speakers up here to capture audience better. So, if
We're
you're
gonna
doing a
hear
lot of
people out there bitching and moaning.
I thought they were always just saying how good you did.
Yeah.
So I watched one of the YouTubes, I guess it was probably 2 weeks ago, and the audio was terrible.
It is.
Yeah, this should make it a lot better.
See, and I go back and I listen to several just as I go back and check things, and I can always hear whoever's up here, but if you're past
Forget
that
about
podium,
it, yeah.
I can't note that you're in, I can't note your comments because there's no way to verify what you're
Look, I think that'll still be the problem.
Probably.
Because there's nothing out there to catch them. They need one of those microphones that hangs down from the ceiling in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah.
What everybody?
Well, we can keep rolling.
It's
with it.
5 minutes now.
That's right. They missed their 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, vote to extend the break by 5 minutes.
Not gonna. We don't have enough.
No,
we
no,
don't
enough
have
people to
here
approve it.
vote on it.
Unfortunately, Connor, you don't get that.
That's right. That's right. You can't make a motion.
How about this weather, huh?
Only for another day. Then we'll really be loving it when it starts raining.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Other than trying to plant some ground.
You better hurry.
I'm not gonna make it.
You got 24 hours.
Definitely won't make it.
Yeah, it's the next 4 days after that, after tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, but Saturday's really the best chance. Then the other ones keep changing. They're every few hours. But cold.
I talked to a person down in North Ogden today, and they got slammed.
Really?
Yeah, with that one the other day.
Yeah, they got like 1.25 inches.
Yeah, we got 2 tenths.
Yeah, I was like, we didn't get nothing like that.
Yeah.
Hey Kurt, when everyone gets back and we start up again, just want to clarify one thing on the Pioneer agreement and get some direction. Hey,
Okay, sure. Okay.
That'd be great.
You want to make a motion to start the meeting up again, do we?
No, we'll
Okay.
just
We'll
start
start
back
again.
as soon as you
Okay.
say we're going.
Okay.
what's that?
Is that
I know
my
there's
turn?
only so much you can do.
All right, we're ready to start back up. Let's turn time back over to go over some pioneering.
Sorry, just to
Clarifications.
clarify, what is the direction the commission wants to go with it? Do you want to set it, because if you're gonna ultimately want to present it to the council and recommend approval of it, we have to have another hearing, you have to have a public hearing on it and open it up for public comment on it as well. So I just wanted to clarify what the intent is. Do you want us to rework some things? Do you want to move forward in that process and basically set it for a public hearing next month and open it up, or what direction you guys want to go with it?
I like Val J's recommendation of a fee.
Okay.
Or, you mentioned to use the impact fees. Should we do a correlation with what goes there?
You can look at that. Sure.
Because if the county's on to chase that, or give that payment back to somebody for a while, we have to put a task on the county employees somehow. Not even to mention the tracking, we gotta talk to the recorder, cause now we have to flag that lot, that parcel somehow. So we're not only impacting development services, we're impacting the recorder and whoever else. And probably the auditor, cause he'd have to mail out the check. So, I think we need to have some kind of fee in there.
Yeah, I think after the kind of the 3 things we highlighted, maybe incorporate those and bring it back one more time. And then look at the public hearing, maybe the meeting after that. Because
That makes
there was
sense.
quite a few changes, I think, on
That's
there.
totally fine, so make sure we're all on the same page, so.
I think that'd be my recommendation.
I think I agree with you. Okay. All right, back to the commercial lot coverage.
Yeah, so, like I said, this is kind of introducing it. What direction would planning commission like us to move in this? We can explore multiple ways, I guess, and bring it back next time. Just kind of depends on what y'all want to do.
Well, I think one thing from an ethical standpoint that we just need to be careful of is, and if there's something that benefits Mr. Doggs
Yeah,
because of this, that's another thing that we kind of got to be a little careful about, but.
Yeah, so the
He's already paid the price for it.
yeah.
He's already
The benefit to me would be in the end, I can asphalt all my driveways. I can
Or
already
you
add the
can add
buildings.
another 35% of structures.
Well, I can already add the buildings.
Correcting a code, I don't
Yeah.
see an ethical issue on that. Hey, there's a better way to do this. I would be comfortable with the proposal going to an 80%. I think that's clear. To me, it gets very, very difficult if we start saying building square footage and hard surface, all of that. To me, that's, and maybe we re-explore it in the future if that, we start
Becomes an issue.
putting down a bunch of commercial space. It's not, we don't see that many of these, but it seems like a reasonable request to go to 80%.
Concern I have of going too much though is if we don't have a parking regulation at the same time, I think you're going to run into some problems like you've got out north there, because the number of times I've been in the Logan City Council to plead for things to be done, it was over parking, and it was parking in my lot, not the neighbor's lot. Just making sure they were big enough, had enough parking.
That would be part of the
Conditional use permit.
process, though.
They have
is
to
do
meet
the-
certain
to do the
parking
parking
analysis.
Yeah,
study.
there is a parking standard.
Yeah.
80% when you think it takes, it
Yeah.
doesn't leave much for parking.
And that would be part of the space.
So what does that look like if we approve this 80% tonight? What is the next step? What is that?
Then
So
we
you
would
wouldn't
hold a
be able
public
to
hearing,
approve it tonight. It would be a public hearing next meeting.
Okay,
and then we would recommend approval to the county council at their meeting after that.
okay.
But I don't know, I mean, unless we look at, and I don't know, we don't need to waste any more time on this, but if we look at like some of the commercial rezones that we've done over the last year or two, how would this impact them? Like out in Hiram, that Dansford with the concrete, I don't know, maybe it's no big deal, but I don't think it's something we should just do way fast without thinking about it, because once we make it, it's no different than a rezone, it's done. But if nobody else is worried about it,
You want to
proceed.
take 30 days to think it over?
Well,
We'll
they
do
could
it next
even,
meeting?
they could even bring some of those to review, some of the other ones that have been done in the last 2 years, so we could look at how it would have, or could have changed them.
Yeah,
We
so-
could look at that before the public hearing even, and still do it all at the same meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
You can review the stuff and then have the public hearing about it after.
Wouldn't be that many, would there?
No.
Probably not. We could probably go to 5 years and still be like probably less than 10. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that too, remember how there was that one that was gonna do like the event center equivalent to the fairgrounds? Did they bail?
Yep.
They went under.
They expired.
They decided it'd be too expensive, I think.
Well, I knew they were out of time, but I didn't know if they did an extension or.
No, their engineer got notified and he just said, just let it die, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was gonna cost a lot of money.
That road was expensive, yeah.
Well, their barn, everything, they were gonna be into millions. Would've been nice.
Okay, let's go to discussion number 10, irrigation canal setback distance.
Yeah, so another request at the last meeting was to look at the setback from the top of a recognized irrigation canal bank to any structure or fence. which currently is 16.5 feet in every zone. We did have a situation recently on a zoning clearance where this came up, and we weren't really able to determine where that 16.5 feet came from. So we were looking at it, and one of the suggestion was that we just remove this altogether and let the canal company decide. However, when we were in a staff discussion, Matt, Public Works Director, pointed us to another chapter of the code, which is Chapter 8, 28050, Access to Properties and Setbacks. And in that section of code, it requires a 10-foot setback in order to allow the vegetation department to get access to contain and maintain for noxious weeds. So the suggestion would be to keep that setback, but reduce it to the 10 so it's consistent with the other section of the code that the vegetation management department needs in order to do that maintenance.
So I would make a suggestion that we change them both to canal company deference. So currently we have 130-something canals in the county. I think I can count on my two hands the ones that actually have a clear right-of-way that you can drive down and do vegetative management. So we're talking about less than 10% of them that you can even do that on, and we're encumbering the other 120 canal companies' land next to those canals for something we really have no control over. We don't know when a farmer puts a fence up next to that canal. I see the point of, right, if it were a clear canal like the Wellsville Minden, right, you can drive that entire canal, you could spray that if the canal company wasn't doing a good job. But those ones are already being maintained, right? We're not gonna have a structure or a fence across those because the canal companies are maintaining those easements, they're making sure that's done. I still think both of them, not that we just leave it to the canal, but in both of those it states, if a proposed fence or structure is within the canal company easement, because some canal companies are different, right? Some are 10, some are as much as 30 feet.
And some of them own their land.
Yeah, and some own their land and some don't. But if it's in the canal company's easement and you're proposing a fence or a structure, you have to have written permission from the canal company. Then in both cases, and we could add to that. And if it's one that the county needs access to, which I can't think of any of the others that the county could drive if they wanted to spray, right? They're gonna have to go around everyone's fence. But you could just say a gate is required at the property line so you can still get through that to do the spraying. Instead of, because if not, you're encumbering two sides of a canal, and if a guy comes in and buys that and it was a crop field and he wants to turn it into a pasture, he now has to fence the entire length of that canal 10 feet off the bank so he can graze his cows on his own property, right? That's a lot of money to put into something that the county may never drive a four-wheeler down there to spray that. So in my mind, we're taking property away from landowners for something that probably is never going to happen.
But maintenance is a huge issue.
And I think that's where the canal company comes in.
And when you look at an excavator that's at least 10 feet wide, sitting on the ground, and then you start swinging it, I don't think it's our right to change this.
Well, I don't think we have authority to change Chapter 8, so I think Planning Commission is relegated to 16 and 17.
Yeah,
But what if we left it to the property owner and the canal company?
That's where it needs to
But you gotta say the canal board, you can't just go to the secretary or one member. You gotta go to the board and have a statement or a letter back from them.
Yeah, I like to defer to Public Works since the vegetation department's in there.
So the other code would need to go straight to the county council to change?
Most likely.
LJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I think those ones just don't make sense. They're totally unenforceable the way they're currently written.
Well, so Sevier County, they had a case where they came in and they built the corner of the structure out into that area, and it didn't get caught. And so then the homeowner basically claimed adverse possession on it. And it really then it fouled up so the canal company couldn't get down, and it got pretty ugly and pretty expensive because they had built it out into that and compromised part of the
So
bank.
in that situation, when they brought that plat to the county and the county said, oh, it looks like you're close to the canal, you're gonna have to have a letter from the canal company.
Well, they missed it.
Right.
When it got built. So I don't know. if
So
we
that
want-
could happen in either way, I
Yeah,
guess.
it could happen. I just don't know we want to dilute it.
I don't think we do.
Well, right now it's 10 feet, so like you said, Brady.
I thought it was 16.
It's 16 and a half,
No,
isn't
that's
it?
the other one.
It's 16 and a half in chapter 17,
Yeah,
but 10
and the other
in chapter 8.
one's.
I wonder if
10.
you kept the 16 and a half here, and if they wanted to build a fence, had to get permission for an exemption from the canal company.
Well, that's right, yeah, we could even add that, if anything inside that 16 and a half feet.
I'd be
they get an
comfortable
exemption.
with that.
Because right now, there's no exemption.
Well,
If they
the
want
only
something.
concern I have is the big canal companies that manage a lot of water, they watch it, they manage it, and they're doing the maintenance. It's those small ones that don't have the personnel, those really small companies, and they're ditches more than canals. And they're the ones that don't have the resources.
Well,
And
but
so-
they're also the ones that have a fence every 200 feet already.
Right.
And so they don't.
Those fences are already crossing the canals, and
So they don't, because that's where this one came up. There was a guy that's trying to get a zoning clearance to build a house, and he can't, because there's a fence and a shed next to the canal. And the canal company said they're fine with it, but there's no exemption in the code to say, okay, he's
That he
gotta tear
can
out the
build.
fence and move the shed to get a building permit. And that's when we looked at that 16 and a half feet, and I'm like, well, we shouldn't be telling someone they can't put a fence next to the canal if, that butts right up to the canal so they can graze along it. Or if canal company allows it, then the canal company should allow it. But if the canal company, because most fences go in, we're never gonna know about it. Right? We have no way to know if someone's building a fence as the county.
They've had some real problems though in other states, Wyoming over there on the Salt River. People start, I mean, this is totally off subject, but you get them structures or allow them in to start with, and then it's like he said about that building down there. I just don't, I'm not comfortable messing with it.
What do we run into if we have a house or something else like that, and the Development Service Office is based on time to approve, but yet the canal company or the board doesn't meet for a while, so have we got any issues for that?
In terms of official issues, I'm not sure, but I guarantee if that canal company doesn't meet the next week, I'll be getting phone calls about it.
Exactly, so we're putting a constraint there, so we gotta figure something out about that, because you're under legislative law to approve that in a certain time before maybe the canal board meets. So, I get what you're saying, Nate, but we just.
Well,
create a
even
problem.
if there's an exemption in there, right now, there's just nothing, right? If the canal company's 100% fine with it,
So,
because they can use the other side of the canal for maintenance if they need it, right? There's other things. There's so many potentials out there. I think, to me, just having a blanket statement, nothing within 16 and a half feet of any canal in the county, to me seems overreach on property rights by the county.
Do you think that would you say that applies to structures, or just like if they got rid of the fencing part?
I think on either of it, in some of them, because in some cases, right, the canal company has the easement on both sides of the canal. A lot of them only ever go down one side, so it may be the canal company approval.
Structures wouldn't be a good idea to
So
exempt that.
I just wanted to clarify the portion that's in the noxious weeds part of it. It says the 10 and a half feet, but it says where maintenance, repair, upkeep, etc. is provided or serviced by a canal company or others that don't own the property, essentially. So I think this is kind of something that if someone's coming in and they're trying to plat something and they haven't talked to the irrigation company, it was a way to try to, the bigger ones are going to be, but if you had some canal through someone's property and the irrigation company had to provide maintenance through there and they didn't have an easement or something, but it wasn't a broad across the board every canal. It was
Not
the
like
ones.
the other one.
No, it was the ones that are being maintained by someone other than the property owner.
That one makes sense.
So it wasn't all inclusive, and it made some exceptions for fence, as long as you wanted to fence it off, and so you had to go along all these fences. They needed to provide a way, at least a 10-foot opening, so that people could go up and down that canal bank.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot more sense
So
on
a
that
little
10-foot
different than just a blatant 16 and a half feet, no nothing in fences, so.
I wonder if you're the guy downstream and now someone's built a fence up against it, no, you can't get water to your place because so many things are in the way, how are you gonna maintain that canal? There's no setback.
Well, that's why I think that, but it's, I don't think that's the county's responsibility. That's the
No.
canal company's
But we
responsibility.
gotta protect the canal
We
companies.
do, and I think we do that by saying if it's proposed, you have to go to the canal company.
And
That
realistically,
protects both, and then it still leaves a liability of the canal company that we're gonna maintain that easement, not the county.
if someone came in for a zoning clearance, we already do have stuff that's required up front. So like, let's say someone comes in for a house and they don't have a water right. I gotta say, hey, sorry, I can't accept this until you get the water right to me. In the terms of a canal, if they came in, we could just say, hey, before you can even apply, you do need to provide this letter. So that kind of protects us on that
Takes care of
end.
the time thing.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that, that's cool, though.
Nate, how easy is that to find though? I know they've mentioned hundreds of irrigation companies. Is there some way that
Well,
you
you,
could give these unknowing landowners, hey, here's the contact for that irrigation company?
yeah, have them call me. Yeah, I mean, they change often enough. There's not a good list, right? Most of them know who it is because it's in their neighborhood. They know who they have water shares too in the canal in a lot of cases. But if not, we could find out who the canal company was.
We kind of do that with piping.
Yep.
Or modification of the canal.
It's not always, a lot of times they've passed away or they've changed, right? They change every year sometimes.
Well, I think it'd be good to talk to some canal companies and see what their thoughts are on
Get their
this.
thoughts on it.
Yeah, say, would this be good? Is something you look at, small ones that would, that'd be impacted by this?
Yeah, I just know it, yeah, to me it seemed like we were
I mean, I get why the
we
setback's
were
there,
getting in
but,
people's property rights quite a bit when the canal companies are the ones that are supposed to oversee that type of stuff. Not that we couldn't still be there and have a step that they still have to jump through to make sure the canal company's aware of it. To me, that seemed like it made a lot of sense. They're gonna be notified and have to get that letter, and then, if they have an issue, they can't do it. I mean, they can give them the zoning clearance. If they give them a letter, they can still give them the zoning clearance.
Did those setbacks have anything to do with the county's planning of flood mitigation in the past?
No, that's a different one of, I think the current is 50 feet from open water, so that's our floodplain stuff is 50 feet. But a lot of times irrigation and canals are not in the floodplain, so
They're not.
now it's like you're trying to decide if that irrigation ditch is a flood hazard or not, but we haven't used those in one and the same, no.
Okay.
And the one in the noxious weeds is used very rarely because we don't know who maintains it, so we'll ask Jake, and if Jake's like, yeah, we maintain that for so-and-so, then we might try to put something in, but.
Yeah, that explanation on that
One
would
out
make a
of
lot more
every 100
sense.
developments, so.
It's not every canal.
So how do we want to proceed? Do you want to look at examples, like talk to the canal companies and see their
Yeah,
thoughts?
and I've talked to a few already, but yeah, we can talk to more in between and
Could
see.
it be that you need to hold a setback of, say 20 feet? Like, I would like to propose additional setbacks in the county, because I think in A10, you can build, 5 feet from your property line, there's no place for drainage and irrigation as it sits, so another topic, but what if we had, hey, you need to hold this setback unless you get a letter from the canal company?
Yeah, I think it could be either way. It could be the 16.5-foot setback unless you have a letter, and then the letter.
It's otherwise approved by the irrigation company, then if they, are like, hey, that's.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because then those little ones that you can't get a hold of, then it's just, that's what it is. But if you get a hold of them, and I think with this particular landlord, that was his, right? He came in with a letter, had the approval, and we're like, there's no exception. There's nothing we can do. So that's why I thought, well, let's look into that.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you get an exception from the canal company, then
you can do it.
Is there a timeline on how long that would last? They don't hear for a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Which what?
In terms of getting a letter, if that setback applies or not?
Well,
Is there a deadline on that?
The active ones
It-
meet
it
at
just-
least
it just de-
monthly.
It just depends on how fast,
they do.
it just depends on how fast they want to build their house.
You guys don't?
If they want to get the letter back to you,
In the
they'll get
summer
the canal
we do.
company together. If there's no rush.
Summer, we don't meet that
So
often.
do you want staff to make
No
a
way.
change to this? We can look at it, like what it would look like?
Try and get
Yeah, I
it
think
in
that's,
the winter.
it's
With an
really, it's
exemption?
really just one line into that code is all we'd have to add is.
Yeah, just
So
an
I think
exemption.
if we add that and.
Yeah, I would, I guess my only question would be for maybe the county attorney is if
2 minutes.
that would need to require that chapter 8 reference also get changed.
I don't think so, because that sounds like it's a totally different thing. It's more, it doesn't apply to every canal, it sounds like. Where this one's a blanket, every canal. And it's not a zoning clearance
Yeah,
thing.
we'd want it to be a blanket for every
Yeah, and
canal.
this one, I think we just leave it. Just add that line in there, that it's a requirement to get that exception if you want to do
Yeah.
something in that. That makes sense. And the other ones are still covered.
Okay, we're almost out of time.
We're gonna fly for this next one.
Actually, this next one, I don't have the energy for, and it's not a huge priority, so I will kick that to next month.
What's just the highlight of it?
We've been having issues with our frontage requirements, specifically for FR 40 zones, because the 150 feet of frontage has to be on a public or private road. In the past, we've had creative solutions to this by people dedicating easements to themselves in order to create that frontage. So this would allow for existing legal parcels to not have that 150 feet on a public or private road, but they do bear the burden of proving access.
And that's only in the FR 40.
Yeah, that would be the exception only in the FR 40. And then for the other zones, we would just clean up some of the definitions, because we still have a phrase in there that says you can create frontage parallel to a public or private road, but county attorney Luthi, I believe it was, said that wouldn't work. It has to be actual frontage. So it's just cleaning up some language, and then clarifying that the frontage also includes a minimum depth. You know, because we have some people who want to come in with like a foot or like 2 feet, but you got to have the availability, put in pads for trash and mailboxes, things of that nature. The definition, one of our definitions for property frontage does talk about it needing to meet the front yard setback. So we're just cleaning that up and maybe adding a row to the table that clearly shows that that's the requirement.
Angie, what about part of that, looking at we're what, at the 2006 parcel now? Used to be 1970.
Yep.
So how does that factor in at all?
No, there could be legal non-conforming.
Mr. Chair, you got to vote to extend the meeting.
All right.
We got one more item left after this one?
Yeah, 12 is just about our joint workshop. We're just going to revisit, but I can just ask you to email me your suggestions on that, and then just remind you about our October 22nd meeting.
Okay.
I just have 2 quick questions.
Okay.
Are we gonna change table 17 on those minimum lot sizes?
We can bring it back next time.
I'm honestly concerned about that. Second question is, did anybody hear from, well, probably the attorney's office, was there any communication between the attorney's office and Nixon to resolve that?
There has been, I don't know the details of those.
Okay.
I know Taylor has had some conversations with him in that regard.
Okay.
Did you want to extend it 5 minutes or 3 minutes or?
So you need 3
60
minutes?
seconds?
Okay,
Or
let's
I
extend
can
it.
just run through this really quick.
Let's just run through it really quick.
We're just sitting here, we've been adjourned.
I know it's been off already,
Okay,
yes.
so item 12 was, we just were going to ask for direction or suggestions and things to look at based on our joint workshop with county council last week. And then again, a follow-up meeting is scheduled for October 22nd at 6 p.m. So that should get noticed, and we'll send you out that information. But if you do have specific direction or ideas, I'd love to hear them. You can email me, give me a call. Then item 13, just letting you know about the annual Cash Summit. Typically, it's always been in November, but for some reason, it's in October. It's actually 2 days this time. Monday, October 27th, and Tuesday, October 28th. If you go to cashsummit.com, they have the they kind of have an agenda set up. The first day, Monday, is mobile workshops. Keep scrolling down. And then and then they'll have a keynote and even a dinner on that Monday. And then Tuesday is the more typical sessions, breakout sessions. You can earn your required training hours through this. But again, if you want to take a look at that, cashsummit.com. And we are happy to cover your registration fee if you would like to go to that. So just let me know. Again, I'll send out a separate email just to remind you and see if you want to go to both days or one day or not at all. But.
Okay.
And that's all I had.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Connor. We're good.
Do you want to adjourn the meeting?
We'll adjourn the meeting.